Welcome everybody to SEAL Team 7, episode Hartshorn. I'm really pleased to have back for, a countless number of times now, Philip Hartshorn. Really quick, Phil, do you want to give yourself just a little bit of an intro?
Sure. Hey guys, my name is Philip Hartshorn. You may know my film work from China, my documentaries, my fight scenes. You may also know my voiceover work, where I get summoned as a summon materia on my girlfriend's stream and cause chaos and have a very good time. I also love Final Fantasy and breaking down the cinematic language of every scene and really trying to increase everybody's appreciation of art, especially in Final Fantasy.
Thank you. And definitely links are in the comment section, YouTube. So we're here to talk about Rebirth. I know that you were a little, you got busy right as it came out and you were doing stuff that was, honestly, I would have put Rebirth aside for it too. And it was really cool to watch all that stuff happen in your life. And,
Thank you.
Big things, proud of you. But so you're kind of hot off the presses.
Yes.
recently completed Rebirth, and I've been watching your journey, and you've been dropping some really hot content on it, and so it's time to have it and talk to you about it. So we'll start off with a real basic question. What'd you think of it?
I would be remiss to say it's not possibly my favorite game ever, honestly. It's just not only do I love games and I love fun gameplay and I love getting in there and getting addicted to an RPG like we all do, but it feels like a realization of my favorite franchise, which is Final Fantasy. It feels like it's finally there, like what I always dreamed it could be. I feel it's finally reached its full potential. I feel like it's finally achieved the vision for the artists who have been trying to kind of get what they had on the PS1, but in an appropriately kind of modern presentation and a sort of like high art level that was impossible to have back then. And it's so beautiful to see. Yeah, I absolutely love it, and it's drawn in from a lot of my other favorite things like Final Fantasy X. I got a lot of feelings that were similar to Final Fantasy X, and also, believe it or not, that's my favorite Final Fantasy was always FF10, and I feel they have finally even surpassed that as far as just like character and and sort of narrative through line and connecting everything and expanding the lore and even deepening the lore and making it more clear than FF10's. Like FF10 still has some parts very similar to original FF7, where it's like you kind of got to go and make some huge lore research to understand what happened at all, whereas this is finally kind of showing rather than having you go to a forum back in 2003 with a bunch of obsessed fellow fans and be like, how did Sephiroth reconstruct his body? Wait, what is happening? So yeah, it's really great. I love it.
I hear you. I'll be honest that the comparison to Final Fantasy X
sickens you, right?
Makes me like makes me like Rebirth a little less, just being transparent. No, I'm kidding. That's my nuclear take. Final Fantasy X is a good game. I do think that there are some functional problems with its story that I'm hoping aren't being built to apply to the Trilogy's narrative, because in some ways I feel like they undermine some of the stakes and the core narrative stuff. But I'm not fully convinced that that's actually what's happening. But that's sort of beside the point. I think it's hard to call Final Fantasy X anything but an absolute masterpiece of a game.
And I just like I said, I agree with you. There's parts that could have been better explained at the least, and I still love the game.
And like it's easy to forget too. Like games didn't have stories forever, like for years, and so we felt so lucky to have voice acting at the time. We're like, this is amazing. I can't believe it. It's only kind of now that we're starting to hold the narratives of video games to the same standard as other media. And
exactly. And that's the thing, like you just said, voice acting first time. That is altering the medium. That is like, okay, voice acting, not just like a couple lines of, you know, like ouch dialogue in Street Fighter, something like real voice acting. That was new. So it's like creating a new medium in a way. FF7 OG.
Yeah.
3D story, a novel length story, a novel amount of sort of fantasy world and world building and character and stuff. So, you know, we don't expect back then for it to be held to like, you know, a live action representation of a fantasy film, like say the Lord of the Rings trilogy or whatever. Like it's just not even in the conversation. But, you know, when we now have that conversation, just like I said to you before stream, when we talk about it in the art world, when we present, you know, original Final Fantasy VII to the art world as a piece by itself, you know, take out all the facts that, okay, this is the first game that was, you know, 3D in this franchise, first game that really tried like a novel style of storytelling in a game. Take all that out and just view it as a piece. Yeah, like it's not going to stand anything at all compared to Rebirth. Obviously, it's just not on the same sort of level of art. But doesn't mean it's bad. Still one of the most charming games ever made. Changed gaming forever. But you know, it would be akin to looking at, you know, an early film that kind of like made leaps and bounds, but was incredibly early and didn't have the technology to voice a lot of the stuff that we can today. Groundbreaking, amazing, nostalgic, but not comparable to Rebirth.
Absolutely. I think what a lot of people probably want from us is to sort of talk about theories. This is more of a theory focused podcast, but I do want to get kind of a general sense of, like, let's say your favorite chapter and maybe something that really stood out as like the strong point or the pinnacle or the peak of the Rebirth experience for you.
Absolutely. So there's a couple standouts. Number one, I'll say chapter 9, right? Chapter 9. I feel like it did so much for me. This is what I mean when I say it sort of like solidified the vision of Final Fantasy, and also paid homage to its legacy, but did something better and new. Is look at Gongaga in the original, first of all, compared to that. It's just like an optional thing you can walk through real quick. But beyond that, it felt like Sakaguchi Final Fantasy. You know, when you have these like parties split up, you got the girls in Gongaga, you've got this insane, really good dungeon that happens, which is, okay, gameplay, creative gameplay focus, which leads into a boss battle. And then we switch perspectives. Then we're back to the girls in Gongaga, and it's like, this is Sakaguchi, man. He did that all the time in FF6. Felt so FF6, so FF9 to me. And we're running along, and we have the original Nobuo music, Hurry Up, from the original game, blasting, and it's like, okay, creatively working in a song that was just in the battle arena in the original game, essentially. That's great. Let's have this work. Leading into, you know, another boss battle, incredible cutscenes, character work throughout all this, not just spectacle, important character narrative work. Then we have
oh, we're losing you, Phil. Uh-oh. Oh no.
Stuff, and this feeling of like foreboding building that carries all the way to chapter 14. This feeling of inevitability, like what is happening to Cloud, and that's going on. We have the drama with Tifa, we have everything, we have the weapon. It's just Sephiroth lore. We see Sephiroth, and I'm gonna get to this in a second. We see Sephiroth in the live stream. That's what I'm talking about. In the original game, that's inferred through deep study of the lore. It's never mentioned in the game. Just played it with Aaliyah. Just like, yeah, he rebuilds his body. What? You see him in the live stream now, and I'll tell in a second why that's so important. But it's just, chapter 9 was incredible. And then I feel like, honestly, from that point forward, it was just like this FF10 style, you know, kind of like marching drum of narrative, where it's like, you know exactly what we're moving towards, some inevitability with Cloud. What is happening to our main character? The conversation with Tifa after all this spectacle and lore building, when you see her backstory. Cloud in the original game kind of says it in one scene very briefly after the end of disc 1. I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know what I might do. You guys want to come with me and watch me? I'm a little scared. But in this, we get this, you know, the first time we've ever seen Cloud completely vulnerable and said, I'm terrified. I'm degrading. I don't know what's going on with me. I don't know who I am. Super important, man. That's so human. And to see that, vulnerability, again, the cool thing about it was, and I thought it was so clever, he's alone with Tifa, with Aerith and Barrett and all those guys. He's trying to impress them, man. He's trying to be cool bodyguard for Aerith, you know, and try to be, oh yeah, I'm cool. Like me. With Barrett, he's like supposed to be a badass, right? He's not gonna be like, I need help. You can't say that in front of Barrett, right? So I thought it was so clever to have that moment where he both is like admitting he failed, where he pushed Tifa into the live stream, and also that he's terrified. He doesn't know what's happening to him. So, I mean, that's what I meant in the space of one chapter. Character, great gameplay, great boss fights, variety, Sakaguchi feeling, man, like kind of the real just vision of Final Fantasy coming through. Just that really charming storytelling, and yeah, just pinnacle gaming experience too, I thought. So yeah, chapter 9, big standout. And the end. I thought the end was great, but I'm sure we'll get to that. I'm sure we'll get to that.
Absolutely, we will. I think the end of chapter 9 is very strong for me.
Yeah.
What's been fermenting for me though, and turning into something that I really like upon reflection, it's almost equal with the end of chapter 13 for me now.
Chapter 9.
Yeah, and chapter 9 was easily my,
yes.
From start to finish. First playthrough, I was like, I can't wait for people to experience this for a couple reasons. One, totally. First and foremost, because it was beautiful. The music in the live stream was like, just felt such peak cinema. The the little things they did, the fact that it was in the live stream, and it was Tifa elements of the Tifa elements of the live stream sequence that we obviously know is coming later, but from Cloud's perspective was really, like, from a mystery box perspective, really interesting to me. The introduction of the White Whispers, I really immediately liked that. I immediately sort of recognized that, okay, so what's happening is that they're taking this stance on the girls and saying, this is Aerith, this is Tifa, this is Cloud. Everybody loves each other and has genuine care and concern for each other and the planet. And there's something that was really core to Final Fantasy VII about that for me, is that underneath the exterior and the not knowing how to be and act, I saw Aerith saving Tifa in that scene, and then Tifa using that opportunity, to put forth, that influence and the beauty of the cosmos side of the chaos cosmos struggle, and injecting that into the next conversation that she has with Cloud, which is full of compassion and understanding. It's the appropriate way to respond to trauma, where we get the foil of how Sephiroth responds to trauma, and compare it to how these characters respond to it. And it really felt like just like one of the most beautiful, like, explorations of the themes of pure Final Fantasy for me, definitely. But as I've gone through it a couple times now, and I've taught myself how to pace myself with the game appropriately, and save the last half of chapter 13 till after the Temple of the Ancients, puzzle sections and stuff like that. I think the trial section and all the Genova lore is really setting up something that's really beautiful, and so that's kind of almost tied at this point for me.
Oh my goodness, the trials was so unexpected, and I think that's why it was incredible. And again, one of those moments where me and Aaliyah were talking about after, it's like, this is one of those moments where you're like, they've just so expanded the story and kind of tapped into these characters and expressed these characters in just such a deeper way. And I mean, those trials were, it's stuff that you don't even think about. It's, like Nanaki got taken by Hojo, right? We know that. But you never even think, like, how terrifying that would be. He's also a child, And to see that was just, it was earth-shattering. And again, just out of nowhere. The Barrett one, man, I think that is the darkest scene in Final Fantasy history, period. Absolutely heartbreaking. And it wasn't showing explicit violence. It was showing, like, the effects of violence, of mutilation, and just absolutely heartbreaking to the core. Like, unbelievable work, and one of the strongest scenes I thought in the entire thing. And I think the Barrett stuff throughout is incredibly strong, from dying all the way through. But like this was just, and for them to make the decision to hold off Myrna, to showing her, and to that point, I was thinking earlier, I'm like, oh, they didn't show her, interesting. And there you go. It was all part of the plan to just destroy you.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of see what all the fuss was about, because like they really conveyed how magnetic she was, and how much of a how much of a softness that she offered Barrett in just a very, very short period of time. And there's a lot of, for all the complaints about fluff in this game and padding, there's a lot of really economical storytelling where it's like the economy is so precise and clean.
Yep, not overdone.
Yeah,
absolutely. That scene's the perfect example. Yeah.
That's a good example. And the Aerith as a child, I've redone that a couple times. It's so fucked up, man. I can't even. It's really fucked up. And if you
just the horrors of humanity that is expressed in like 2 minutes.
And if you pause in that and you see the menu screen and it shows her, and you watch her just animations and watch her shift between all these different emotions of a child, it's just like, fuck, man. They did not spare.
That's what I mean. Like that. Yeah. That's the level of care and just expression that they put into every single ounce of it. And this is all new content. This is all new content, and this is again the kind of the new content that people don't talk about. They're always like, oh, the new content, like the new scene at the end. What does it mean? It's like, well, yeah. What about all this amazing stuff that is incredible? It doesn't exist in the OG in any capacity. So
I even really got emotional with Red's treatment, like seeing the hooks, having to resist the hooks.
Yeah,
that got me. That got me a lot.
Really. And that's the thing, like that's the first thing Aaliyah said is like that's a child. Now we know that.
Yeah.
So now when you meet him, it's like, oh, it's like this cool wise creature that escaped Hojo, and it's like, no, man, I was a little kid, and mentally, and it's just so sad.
Was there anything? Okay. Was there anything that you felt maybe they dropped the ball with? Didn't work for you?
I wouldn't say drop the ball. That implies like, a complete like miss completely. I literally dropped the ball. I didn't fumble it.
Well, okay, we'll reframe. What were the weakest parts of the game for you?
Let me think. Weakest parts of the game. I feel like it's not so much stuff that was done. It might be stuff that wasn't done for me. Like I would have liked to see kind of during the journey, maybe I said this like years ago, maybe there was a scene where we just see the characters sitting. They did this several times, to be fair, with the character dialogue choices and stuff. I think it would have been cool to have a few more times where they're just like kind of on the journey. Okay, we're gonna have to sleep the night out here, or camp or something, to kind of build on that feeling a little bit. That would have been pretty cool. More character conversations and everything. But I mean, God, it's 50 plus hours probably of character conversations, so we're good on that. But yeah, I would say I'm trying to think of a scene I didn't like. I'm trying to think. Maybe Aaliyah can help remind me. Is there anything we were like, Oh, there is. There's a scene, Gold Saucer. When I first played it, I like it more now. But when I first played the Gold Saucer tournament, I thought it wasn't as strong as the tournament in Wall Market in the first game for a couple reasons. And they balance very well the complete wackiness of the OG. Like the game is so goofy and then so serious like a second later. In this, they did it really good. I think it might have gone a little too goofy in that particular section of the tournament. For example, like Rufus coming out and everything, but I did miss a piece of dialogue that I caught second time checking it out, where he's like, oh, I've got Rufus on the phone. He wants to, and I was like, okay, at least they like provide context why Rufus is just suddenly in the arena. But I thought it went a little goofy. And it was, I was actually worried because I didn't know how much of the game was left. I'm like, oh man, I hope they have the time to like make the tone really serious again after this, to kind of build back towards the Cloud is losing his mind and this inevitability, which they did. They had like 10 hours more probably after that. I didn't know about, which was amazing. Yeah. But I was like, yeah, it felt a little too much wackiness. But then I mean, once Rufus came out, and then kind of the section with Kate Sith where he grabs the materia and stuff. Oh, I thought it got really serious where Barrett's like, I don't even want to waste the bullets and stuff. I thought that was great. But yeah, I think the Corneo stuff was a little too wacky for me. I would have pulled it back a little bit personally.
Yeah, definitely.
Because he's like pure evil, and I struggle to find him funny. I think he's just like disgusting. So when I was playing it, I'm like, okay, this is supposed to be the wacky, funny section, but he's literally just like a disgusting, like groomer, whatever you want to call it. Like, he's disgusting. He should die. Like, just murder him right now. There's literally no reason to keep this guy alive. Oh, okay, they let him go again. So you see what I mean? It was almost like if it was more comic relief and he's kind of likable, it's like, oh yeah, he's gonna escape, let him go. But I was like, no, literally kill him, like murder him right now. So yeah, that was the only thing I was like a little too much Corneo, and the music got a little too like almost a little too outside FF7 for me, just in that section. It's like, okay, we get the fun kind of like 90s rap, love it, and then it's okay, now there's like a bunch of EDM songs, got it, and then it was just like, okay, I would have much rather we kind of went serious, and then the Turks battle, have that be fun musically or something. So yeah, that's probably the only section where I was like, I would have reined it in a little bit. But like I said, it wasn't like then the ending was an hour later. Like they had a lot of time to kind of smooth that over for me. Feel completely high stakes again.
I hear
would say
you,
it's the only section where I was like, okay, don't go too far. We're going pretty far. Don't go too far with the wackiness. Okay, you know.
I have a, like all things that I truly love, I have a list of complaints that's much longer than things that I don't care about, just in general. Like that's kind of just the way I evaluate. To be clear
too, like, and I think you agree with me on this. Like of course we have things that we would change if it was like I'm helming the project,
right?
Know?
Obviously,
but the thing is, like, the game is so good and the highs are so ridiculously like groundbreaking high for me that like what I just mentioned does not lower its score for me. You see what I mean? Like,
right.
It was more of a worry when I was first playing. Like, did they go too far? Do they have time? But then they did have time. So yeah, that's. I want to preface. Didn't lower the score for me personally.
For sure, but I have probably way more complaints. Like the like, I think just looking at that particular chapter, I think we fight the Turks a little too many times.
In the whole game.
The whole game overall, yeah. And. Just the way that you have to split the Turks fight is a little bit samey, and it felt like an opportunity for diversity that didn't need to. They could have instead injected something else, or given us the tank Ceratops boss or something. Instead, they made him like a turtle that shoots fire annoyingly at times when you're just trying to hear the next story beat. But the Corneo thing, Corneo's a disgusting character, and I feel like they just copied the template of the character for Solemn Gus and then made him the same kind of exactly shitty sex trafficker, but better. Like, I really like the voice acting for both characters. They're both legendary English VAs, and I really liked Solemn Gus's like weird presentation. I like the goofy ass song. I like that, but it also felt like, okay, this is real estate. That
yes,
they could be giving us something else. I think musically the game has one of the best technical OSTs ever made. There's a few tracks that really stood out to me, none of which are on the official soundtrack yet, which sucks.
Agreed.
Which sucks.
I can't believe, speaking of Corneo, maybe this is why I'm salty. So on the soundtrack, there's like 6 Corneo, Donberry songs. Yeah. And then there's no Vincent's theme.
Right.
Come on now. Yeah. There's the Vincent Boss theme, but there's like 3 versions of Vincent's theme in the game that are incredible. And I was like, all right, what are we doing? This is a disservice to Nobuo. Come on. So they'll do the soundtrack plus like they did with the first game. It'll come out, but it'll be a while, sadly.
And Sleep Easy will get mad at me for saying this, but I don't think we needed to use the Promised Land again as we entered the Forgotten Temple.
Ooh, I liked it because I thought we just had it in chapter 2 in the first game. Yeah, I thought it was a while.
Oh no, it was poetry for sure. But I think there was a tonal issue with using it. I really think that the thing that I was maybe looking forward to most about the Forgotten Capital was getting more versions of the Forgotten Capital soundtrack. Listen to the Cries of the Planets. We did get that, but in the Temple of the Ancients.
Totally.
And
I think that use though, because I'm the same as you. I was like, why are they playing this here? What I loved about it was I was terrified. I'm like, oh no. If you watch my playthrough, I was like, are they accelerating stuff? Is Aerith going down right now? Like, I was terrified. When I hear that song, it's like, oh god, like it's a terrifying song for all of us who played the game as kids, right? But I love it. And then again, just that feeling of impending doom for Cloud that they used, and then it turns into Sephiroth's theme and this like death march. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that was beautiful. I like what they did there.
The other thing about the Forgotten Capital theme is that it feels alien, and I thought that using a kind of alien sounding music for a fallen society worked really well in that there's the foreboding of the fall of a civilization too is also on the way of the area. Doing this somber kind of like in memoriam, like this is a memorial, and that's what Listen to the Cries of the Planet more, what the Promised Land more sounds like is something that's kind of funerary, and I do think that was the wrong tone overall for that scene. I love that music, on its own or where it was used in both Advent Children and in Chapter 2. But in this case, I really thought that it changed the tone of the scene in this weird way, so that when all of a sudden Sephiroth shows up outside the Forgotten Capital and we're back to, standard Sephiroth musics, I was like, okay.
We did get a battle theme of Promised Land though, when we fought the Whispers right there, which I thought was pretty cool. I was like, I never thought we'd get this.
I did like that. Admit. I did like that.
Yeah.
I did
listen, I think, again, just playing the OG like a couple days ago with Leah, we will definitely, maybe not, but I think it's likely we get it when we come back to do the whole section where you explore the whole city. To Forgotten Capital for that thing with the music box and stuff. I think they'll probably play it then, or at least there'll be 20 more versions throughout the whole thing. So on the Dyne scene, I do think that there were some. It's one of the few places where I'm like, okay, I really think just like chromatically and tone wise, Dyne's scene was more consistent in Final Fantasy VII than it was in Rebirth. Now there were things about the Dyne death scene in Rebirth that were amazing, and I like John Eric Bentley's performance in particular, like his really authentic like screams of pain over losing his friend. The fact that Dyne never let up, he never really forgave him. There was no real closure. Still at the end, vocally was wonderful. His actions though, like shooting the Shinra troops up on the, that were coming up over the walls and stuff, that was really that killed it for me. The weird cross thing that was made by that Dio put on later, it really didn't compare to the two crosses that were like these dark, just baroque, implements of both Marlene, and Dyne's, and Eleanor. And I do think that I really would have liked to see that, but again, one of those things is a lot of that is just, that feels like a missed opportunity, and I do have a tendency to be a little bit more lenient on missed opportunities, because like you said, we all would do things differently if we were in the helm. What I do think though is a little bit kind of hard to reconcile was like immediately over Dyne's grave, we've got like Rude and Dio arm wrestling, and as fun as that was any other moment, but like the Palmer thing
just like the tonal break. It was like we don't need that as an audience. And I think what the developers were trying to do was break the tension of the scene. They were like, oh, it's gotten too dark. It's gotten too dark. We got to break the tension. I don't think they need to treat us like that, and I have a feeling they probably won't from here on out.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the problem is actually the OG with that, because the OG is incredibly wacky, and Palmer does spank his butt as you're fighting him and stuff. And they're probably like, okay, no Rocket Town, let's put the Palmer fight here. And like you said, that was a really long, very sad, very slow moving, morose cutscene, very dark. We need a boss battle right now. We need like a high pace. Let's get a chase. Let's get a boss battle. So I see why they did it, but yes, we could have had a little bit more time. And I think again, sort of the weaknesses of the OG are coming out with that, wackiness. Like I said, in the tournament and stuff, I would have toned down the wackiness a little bit. Had a more serious scene with Rufus. I think Rufus is one of the best characters and what they've done with him. So I would have just leaned into that more. And Palmer is right out of the OG. Like this is what I mean where the OG's weaknesses come through. Like he is probably one of the most faithful characters from the OG. It's just like word for word a complete like goofball that would not exist in our world. He's like, I want lard in my team. It's crazy. Spanking his butt, fighting in a Gundam, fighting. It's like, what is this? Would not exist. It's so far from reality. But then you have this like heart-wrenching scene with Barrett, which is they decided to make it very real and very like you said, his performance is very grounded. Right into that. So that's the problem. That's the problem with OG. Do you see what I mean? Like they did adapt it, the feeling of it. But okay, are we going to sacrifice all the wackiness of OG? Then it's not OG. And then I think people really might be upset that they kind of changed FF7, which I think that would be more of a change than the stuff they're doing with the story. So I don't know. I liked it. I thought it was great. I like that Dyne like redeems himself but doesn't. You know what I mean? Like he dies protecting Barrett, but like you said, he didn't forgive him. And I like that as opposed to just like, I thought the original game was very, again, watching the original scene after literally moments after playing that in Rebirth, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot. And he's literally like, I'll destroy everything, including Marlene. She died. And it's like, wait, what? Like, it's just, you can't relate to Dyne. Like he's just the evil kind of like mustache twirler at that point who is just not redeemable versus a guy who's like, they really emphasize his brain damage in Rebirth. Look at the scars on his head. Like he's not all there. He's really, really struggling. Is Barrett there? He's talking about Eleanor like she's there. And then I like the ambiguity that Aaliyah picked up on. She was like, wait a second, Marlene has powers. So does Dyne have a connection to the planet? And I think that would also explain why he pulls like the kind of Akira reference big arm of the stuff. And it's like, wait, does Dyne have some sort of connection? And he says, I can hear them telling me what I got to do. It's like, can he actually hear them? Is he talking to the planet? Like, are they talking to him from the live stream? So I like the ambiguity there. That is hinting at what be going on with Marlene. But again, it's not just like, anyway, Dyne's this ancient descendant now, I thought that was cool.
I'm not sure on that. I think they just needed to escalate the fight and just did.
That could be. It's like, oh, we want a cool boss fight as well.
Yeah.
But again, the ambiguity there at least makes conversation. It's like, wait, why did that happen? And also, why is he hearing their voices? It seems a little too... Why did they put that in there? And then he sees her when he dies and stuff, which again could be just dramatic. But
yeah, it could be. Yeah, it was probably just he sees Terry or Marlene or whatever.
True.
No, so I appreciate going on that journey with me. So Remake had this very mystery box ending that was, sorry. Come here, Charles.
It's okay.
Come here, bud.
Yeah. Have Charles join us.
Yeah, Charles. Oh, okay, fine. Whatever.
Charles, you think Dyne's an ancient?
Be that way. Anyway, so I think Remake had this very mystery box divisive ending, and opened up a lot of mystery, right? It's no matter how you interpreted things, you cannot really get away from the fact that it did write this check of an unknown journey.
Yes.
Right? And yes, I'm aware. It did not say unknown destination. I am aware that it said unknown journey.
Yeah.
However, what was presented did have implications that really broke many things open. Rebirth's ending, while still full of mystery, many people said was narrowed the possibilities significantly, and I'm not necessarily in that camp. I think still there are plenty of possibilities that are on the table. Going from remake to Rebirth, what was your experience with where you think the story of the Trilogy is going? How does it, what's the journey? Is it the same? Is it different? How is it different if so?
Well, if like I said in my initial reaction, I feel that the story is like it's both more the same than the original is, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's more original than the original is, as in it's explaining the lore, it's clarifying stuff. Like I said, what is going on? You have to do a dissertation on Sephiroth and Jenova and the live stream and all this insane lore to really know what happens in the OG at all. There's no way you understood it the first time you watched it because it's just not there. So I feel like it's more the same than the OG is, but also, like you just said, it has all these awesome new concepts. But I feel the new concepts are taking concepts from the OG, building upon them towards something new, as opposed to just like, let's create a bunch of stuff, let's just throw it in there, this is whatever. Like, again, this was my my reaction to the end of Remake, when people are like, they changed everything, different game now, I can't believe game 2 will just be like, Zack, we won't see Cloud, we won't see Tifa, no party, no destinations, no Cosmo, and I'm like, what are you guys talking about? Like, it's gonna be the same story, which the developers said a million times, and it's like, yeah, it's probably gonna be the same thing. Awesome new concepts, new scenes at the end, but we're gonna see the story. Like, why would they not tell the most popular story in their arsenal and update it and everything? So I guess what I mean is, the good thing about the ending of Rebirth is it clarified and sort of qualified the ending of Remake, and I was like, yes, it all makes sense now. It's not just like random stuff for the sake of cool visuals and empty mystery. Like you said, there can be a mystery box where you open it at the end of the trilogy and it's like, that's it. Nobody wants that. Right? We want very fulfilling thing. But I guess what I mean is this, like, so there was a lot of theories, and I know you and Sleep Easy talked about this extensively and definitely added to my thoughts on this before Rebirth came out. So and this is what I had on when I said with Aaliyah, we finally get to see how Sephiroth gained power of the planet and rebuilt his body, but we had a hand in it this time. It all makes sense now. So at the end of the game, we know he absorbs the whispers, the black whispers at the end of the game. What does that mean?
At the end of which game? You're talking about Remake, just to be clear.
Right.
Yeah.
So he tricks us into defeating the Whisper King, leader, whatever you want to say, our Harbinger, and then he sucks him in. Now, why is that significant now? It's not just, I think too many people look at the trilogy as additive only and meta only, and this is why people are missing out on all the kind of fun and the meaning of it. Is that's cool if it's additive only. You're pretty much only thinking that's Advent Children Sephiroth at the end. He's here, he's taking the whispers, he's now like even more powerful than he was in Advent Children, awesome, and now he's gonna keep Aerith alive, he's gonna do this, he's gonna do that, and he wins. But I'm looking at it as, no man, we just are now realizing at the whole first game he's only using Jenova powers. He can appear as the Hooded Men, he can go as a hooded man, grab Jenova's body and Shinra, leave just like he did in the OG. But now at this point he's just floating the life stream, like as a will. He can't really do anything but use Jenova's powers. But when he gets the whispers, now he's powered up. Now that's the whispers. It was literally, Aerith said, he took my knowledge out of the materia in Rebirth, right? He took the knowledge out of materia. It's I lost my memories, my connection to the planet. She says to Nanaki, the materia went dark. That's the knowledge of the planet, as they say. So in the beginning, in the original, we know that Sephiroth gets the knowledge of the planet. That's how he rebuilds his body. That's how he becomes really powerful. But we just saw it happen. Do you see what I mean? That's what the whispers are. And then once he gets it, think about it. He can now act in the world in Rebirth. He you could argue this is a vision or not. He kills the Midgar Zalem. He's acting in the world. He's powered up and he is beginning to rebuild his body. And another revelation I had is when you see, just played the OG, Sephiroth and Northern Crater in the Crystal, he has only a torso. There's no legs. Look at Bizarro Sephiroth. He has no leg. That's his body. That's his true body. Reborn. Like he's no longer like a handsome gentleman. he can appear as that because he has Genova's powers, but like his real form is this disfigured monster. You know, he's finally become a monster. So what I'm saying is we see Sephiroth attack Tifa in the live stream. That's actually him when he's controlling the Black Whispers in chapter 9 and she's in the weapon. He tries to kill her. It's so cool. We're seeing all this happen. We're having a hand in him do it. Not just like, yeah, go read the Ultimanias after to figure out what the hell happened, why he's up there in a crystal. Okay, great. So that's one example of how I think they're expanding on stuff that's in the OG, making it make more sense. We're having a hand in it. And you could also say like, oh, that's also connected to Advent Children Sephiroth because he gains the knowledge of Advent Children Sephiroth when he gets that, and then he can, you know, enact that stuff anyway. So I think it's great, and I think it still allows us to build towards an awesome, satisfying mystery box at the end of it, finally what's inside, but also makes the original make more sense, and we're seeing it happen. We're having a hand in it. So let me know if any of that makes sense.
So I hear what you're saying. So I'm going to change some follow-up questions here on the fly.
Please.
In your mind, what are the Whispers? What is the difference between the Black Whispers and the White Whispers? And were the Gray Whispers, which were also hooded, were also shared Sephiroth's attacks, also generally Sephiroth coded, were they neutral? What is the nature of those things based on the information you've been presented?
So after Rebirth, my thoughts are this, right? The original Whispers, the gray ones, are just the planet doing its thing by itself. Then, of course, we have Sephiroth starting to influence them more and more throughout Remake, at the end of which he completely hijacks them, thanks to us, like, you know, allowing him to. Like I said, he tricked us, right? So then after that, we have the Black Whispers with the balls, the white light in them, which is Aerith's holy material. They took the knowledge of the ancients, you know? So they're powered up, and now he has hijacked it. Then, of course, we have Aerith. I think you could argue that Aerith is already doing this in the live stream. I think which you have hinted that you think you're saying this, right? That it's Aerith already controlling the White Whispers before that in chapter 9. I think that it's when Aerith dies in chapter 14, she is now assumed control of the White Whispers. That's why Sephiroth says, "Oh, I underestimated you. I admit it." Because what did she do right before that? He sends Black Whispers at Cloud, and she sends White ones to. So she's controlling them now. So right. I think that's it. That's what it is. Like, yeah, it's Sephiroth. It's visual language to explain that Sephiroth and Aerith both are now in the live stream, like influencing it and trying to kind of control fate.
Right. I certainly don't think that that the White Whispers that save Tifa in the live stream come from a live Aerith. I think they come from Omni Aerith in the future in the live stream. I do think so. Okay, so the white ball being, you know, like holy. So you're saying that perhaps what holy is the ability to control fate?
It could be, yeah. But like the way I look at it is this, like when we talked about it, is what is holy, as they talk about in that kind of music box section of disc. It's either end of disc 2 or beginning of disc 3 and OG.
Disc 2.
Like it's the solidification of all the knowledge of the ancients, and you can view it as, okay, is it like an emergency button, or is it like literally the knowledge, like their ultimate knowledge that was survived after their demise, right? So I like to look at it as that. Yeah, that's what Sephiroth stole, like literally visually stole it from her materia. Then all his whispers have that. It's a pretty conveniently exact thing, right? He takes it, his whispers power up. Like I said, he's gaining the knowledge. We're seeing it happen as opposed to just that's what happened in the original, retroactively. So yeah, I think it's that. And then also you could argue when it is enacted holy, like it's meant to, we talked about this the other day after watching the end of the original, right? Why does holy fail? Because it's triggered late, I think is what we're supposed to believe, right? Like Meteor's like 200 feet off the ground. Sephiroth was holding holy back. They kill him with moments to spare, and it comes out and it causes more damage because it's right there. I think it was supposed to be like a big shield for the entire planet that just like protects it. At least that was my interpretation after just watching it. So yeah, I feel like it is literally the knowledge of the ancients. Like it can be weaponized like that, but he took it and now his whispers like have more knowledge. You see what I mean? He has more power.
I do think people pretend like the ending was clear about how both the black materia and the white materia work, and those people are liars. Yeah, and those people are liars. Yes. Those people are liars that are drinking liar juice. But okay. What do you think Aerith did to the portal at the end of Remake?
It appears that she cleansed it. That's what I always thought. Right? It's like he uses the Masamune. This is like essentially, to simplify it, like dark magic. He's using this forbidden magic that he's accrued through death and Genova powers and alien powers. When you think about the Gi tribe, does not belong. Mm-hmm. Right? Like literally does not belong. He's as I always say, is unnatural. And then Aerith is natural. Like she is of the planet. She is the ancients. The life stream works through her. She purifies it. So the question then is, why didn't it, like, we still went through the portal, still defeated the whispers, he still won. So I don't know. What do you think? What did
I think she cast holy on the portal so that she could go get its contents from the live stream later and give it to Cloud. Because we see that happen. So we kind of see that happen. So
she does it in the church in part 2. She creates a portal of white light, dumps Cloud in. Sephiroth creates a portal of black light, dumps Zack in. Yeah.
When they get to the sleeping forest and there's this vision of the sleeping forest where Aerith is talking to Cloud. It's sort of the original sleeping forest scene. And it's after he falls out of the interlude, after Cloud falls out of the interlude and Sephiroth's walking towards her. The death of Omni Aerith. Before that scene, there's the dialogue between them, and Aerith is given the full white materia by Cloud.
Right. Mm-hmm.
She puts it in her hair. Rainbows come off of it. Then she hands it back empty and says thank you. And it's because that scene was clearly not actually happening. Like, that's not what the sleeping forest actually looked like. And it was in between the kind of visions where, you see the black and white battling over Cloud's mind. First, it's Cloud, and it's the Black Whispers, and then you weren't supposed to bring that here, Cloud, and then
bad form.
Yeah, it's in bad form, and then you see the white version of the forest there, and we then you see like a literal live stream portal happen, and then you see the real events that are happening in the quote unquote real world. By the way, guys, it's all fictional. I know that's going to be heartbreaking for some of you to know, but none of this is real. But the
what?
But you get the full rundown of Barrett carrying Cloud to the on his back, and stuff being whispered to him. So okay, what were your thoughts when we see two versions of Aerith's death?
Are you talking about the ending? Of course.
Yeah.
Right. Loved it. I thought it was, looking at it and engaging with it to begin with was such a ride, which I think we all agree on. First time we saw it, gripping us emotionally and what's going to happen and everything, and teasing us and everything. But when I look at it as a scene, and I'm going to do a full breakdown soon, like pause play. But when I look at it as a scene, I don't know if there's a scene in gaming that has like, and I say this in a positive way, that has like asked so much of the audience. And this is the reason I love Final Fantasy. Like, it's really, I cannot think of a scene that every single shot is so important. Literally every single micro shot that happens is so incredibly important to pay attention to. And there's information being conveyed. It's not because it looks cool. It's not because, I don't know, pick this angle to like try and make it look sweet. It's incredible. And this is why I think the ending is 10 out of 10, surpasses the original scene with Aerith and everything. Which seems a little bit hollow now when you go back to it. But like, it's just so well done. And so I wanted to say that before. What did I think of it? I thought it was fantastic. The fact that we see this just hit me yesterday. We're seeing Cloud, and we are kind of being Cloud as he's completely like at almost the apex of being a puppet under Sephiroth's control, right? So when I went back to the OG after, it was almost like, oh yeah, like it makes perfect sense for him not to have this monologue right now. Like he's at the apex of breaking. He was about to kill Aerith himself, and then Sephiroth comes down after he stops and does it. You know, like why would he completely break free of Sephiroth's control and give this really sad monologue and then be okay? But then like only a few moments after all this, does the Northern Crater completely fall apart? Like he's at the pinnacle of his sort of mental degradation, if you will, not soldier degradation. So I think it was really, really smart to show him in complete denial. I love that we see him like giving the original monologue with the, you know, classic Genova thing, confirmed by Sephiroth saying like, you'll never see the truth with clouded eyes. Like he's literally seeing Cloud, and you could argue this is in one of the dream worlds, this is in a separate dream world, or it's the same one. I don't think it really affects it at all. Sephiroth is saying like, oh man, like you're in denial. Like, which you could also argue is him saying, join me at the edge of creation. It's all related, you know, same sort of feeling there. But yeah, I think it's great. Sephiroth is seeing him in denial. Cloud is completely losing it at this point. He's reaching the apex. I need to be in denial. He's seeing, and I think you could argue it's both Aerith trying to keep Cloud together by saying like, it's gonna be okay, Cloud, you know, it's okay, I got this, so he doesn't like die from insanity right there. And also it's Cloud, you know, completely in denial, and the two work very well together. You see Tifa show up, and we see still the Genova, you know, static, and we see, oh, Aerith wasn't doing this. It's Cloud holding her dead hand to his face, stained in blood. And I like Sleep Easy's thought on that too, that it was actually Sephiroth threw her blood on him to make it look like the Cloud might have killed Aerith. To freak Tifa out, which I could see them playing that up too. I could see Sephiroth gaslighting Tifa now, like, you're next, watch out for Cloud, you know, it could be pretty cool. But yeah, I thought it was absolutely genius. And then we have, again, every single shot is saying something. The shot where from Tifa, okay, now we're viewing it from Tifa's perspective. Okay, it's not Aerith grabbing his face, it's him holding it. That was mind-blowing to see. After that, we have Cloud lowering Aerith onto the ground. The same exact shot and motion of putting her in the lake. So again, this is sort of Cloud, like, is a cool kind of visual reference, but also, is he completely in denial of what's happening here? You know, lays her down. There's the rainbow light again. So I guess my point is with it, thought it was beautiful. A lot of people, I think, are so obsessed with needing to know exactly the mechanics of the world and how they're affecting everything, when everything I just said works regardless of the case, you know, regardless of exactly the mechanics of all the worlds and everything.
I agree with that. I think that you know, the essence of those scenes, the vibes, as Turquoise Hammer might say, are kind of outside of the mechanics that might bind them together. And I'm getting to the point where I don't necessarily think that we'll ever meet everybody's satisfaction level on the mechanics of how they all come together. And that's fine. I think it's still, for me personally, it landed well. I think there was a lot of just really emotional symbolism that worked really well. Like, I really liked when Aerith showed up in the same. I liked that what we got the Edge of Creation again, which,
yes,
you know, the Edge of Creation in the OG, it was there, but it was just this black space that you fight Omni/Sephiroth with.
Mm-hmm.
In Rebirth, and in the Trilogy, that space is like on a meteor floating towards the planet, maybe, or something, or
right,
you know, just out in the void. There's these two.
Well, what I like too, listen, is what I argued could be the case. And this is what's fun about it. I think now I feel like with Rebirth, we can have theories that are kind of arguing the like minutia of it, but it doesn't really change that much. So, for example, this is a cool thought I had, and I'm pretty sure you agree with me from what you said about Omni Aerith, right? It's like when Sephiroth gets deflected by Cloud, that could either be Cloud completely in denial, like, but we do see the rainbow light appear when he chooses to swing and not just stand there. So you can take that as you will. But my point is, it could be Cloud completely in denial, or it could be he did deflect Sephiroth. But the cool thought that I had is, what if we see Sephiroth walk into the church as Aerith pushes Cloud out. She's saying goodbye to him. She's letting him go, both romantically and literally, like pushing him out of the world, saying like, I'm gonna die now. This is my fate. He falls out. Sephiroth walks in. Shortly thereafter, Aerith dies anyway. I think that the Sephiroth found and killed the real Aerith, the true Aerith, which I think is what you're calling Omni Aerith, or like the most powerful version of herself, in the church, because he says this is where you've been hiding, as implying that he's been looking to find her and kill her all this time, and he finally did. And I think it's just so cool that he kind of kills her true self, so she dies anyway, and that's why he smirks. He's like he thought he deflected, And this is why I always laugh. I'm like, what does deflecting a blade of Sephiroth do? Like, he's so powerful. Like, he exists in like 10 worlds at the same time, 10 dreams, whatever you want to call them. He could just choose to kill her anyway, like at any moment, So, but I thought that was really cool. Do you see my point though? It's like, whichever of those is true, it doesn't really change that much in the overarching story. It's just like, oh, cool, like kind of mechanical details of it. And I think that's the difference with Remake. At the end of Remake, people, I was against it. I said it was going to play out very similar to how it did. Not the ending scene. I'm saying, it's going to be the exact same scenes with some new cool stuff added to it at the end, mystery. But like, I think the problem is people are looking at it as just solely needing to know the mechanics of what happened and kind of only as additive. That's why I keep saying that, like, as instead of looking at it as an art piece and how this is going to play out as a trilogy on its own,
I hear what you're saying. I agree. I do think, though, that the answer to the question is what's really happening when he deflects that blade.
Yeah, what do you think?
Does matter. I think it definitely does matter.
Yeah, it matters.
And I think it would really change the shape of the remake. I'm personally of the mind that it's mostly Aerith kind of doing a surgical response to Sephiroth trying to break him. Because there was so much, there in this game and in Remake, even the importance of degradation and the loss of Cloud's sanity is really played up to the point where it gets disturbing in chapter 9 and 13.
Yes, and I think greatly so.
So cool. It's best scenes in the game usually have him with blood on his face, and I think that what Sephiroth is trying to do is get a full minion out of him, and I do believe that he's like slightly a step behind. There's still many steps ahead of the viewer, but he's a step behind Aerith. And when Sephiroth says, "I underestimated you," it was over Cloud's soul. It was as a result of his attempt to, because in the speech outside of the in the space between worlds, when he's explaining the nature of reality, he says he tries to get Cloud to basically join the reunion, and when Cloud resists, he says, "Well, I guess you need a little push," and the push being him killing Aerith, because we know now that not only is that like a function of the negative live stream that we've sort of it's all like director's commentary stuff, like you said, talking about Ultimania stuff. We know that about Advent Children because we watched the director's commentary and we're super nerds. But if you just watch it, you don't really know what's going on. In this game, they explain it. Sephiroth feeds on despair.
Yes.
And he converts the live stream into negative live stream while you're watching. So you get to see it mechanically work. So we do, and we know that when clones or when soldiers fall victim to despair, they become robed Sephiroth clones. And when Roche turns into a clone, Aerith says, "That's not going to happen to you." Looks him dead in the eyes, and then looks over at Tifa. Tifa looks at her and goes, "Yeah," because I believe they're in collusion, trying to enact a plan to save Cloud's soul, because I think that's ultimately what Final Fantasy VII is about: saving Cloud's soul. That's the crux of it. There's a bunch of other stories and themes that are being told, and I definitely agree that that there's room for more that I hope get explored. But I think what's happening is that was Aerith's chess move, and when Sephiroth says, "I underestimated you," that's what he means.
Because
I don't get Cloud. I don't get Cloud because you're feeding him this, last minute desperation, on his sanity, and it's messy. It's not perfect, but it worked in the moment. And I think she's got a plan for later, and that will come into play in the live stream sequence. That's sort of what I suggest is happening there. That said, though,
it's awesome.
That said, though, there is a little part of me that's entertaining something that was said in the Ultimania, and something that I've been kind of cogitating on for a while, and that's that the nature of the Rebirth project, or the Re-Trilogy, can be known if you understand Jungian collective unconscious and Yogacara. And so there is a part of me that remembers that little portion of Remake. That is the only optional scene. It's the only secret ending in Remake. And it's when you beat Top Secrets. And it's Chadley talking to Cloud and says, "You were able to break me of my bonds from Hojo because of your infinite potential." And so I do think that what's kind of being set up is that Cloud does have something special and world making about him. And so there is something that really can maybe kind of defy fate. So I am a little bit kind of cogitating around the center of that, personally. But
well, yeah, listen, this is so, everything you're saying like works exactly with everything I was saying.
Yeah.
And me and Aaliyah's theory talk is that like it's more original than original FF7. It's more FF7 than original FF7 is what I'm saying. Like, for example, me and Aaliyah had a great talk about like, how does Cloud kill Sephiroth when he's just a guy, does not have Genova cells yet, does not have anything. He's just a guy who defeats the strongest being in existence. Who has just accepted that he's like gonna kill everybody and is embracing his full power, and so it's crazy. And when you think about it, I said, well, he's almost dead, he's stabbed through, he's about to die, and then he grabs Sephiroth's sword and does the same thing in Advent Children. He's getting absolutely annihilated, and then similarly Sephiroth says like, "Tell me what you cherish so I can take it away." That triggers Cloud, this final kind of like, no, I have to protect like the people I love. You're not going to do that to me. And that's the same mistake Sephiroth made then. But like, I guess my point is that sort of potential is already in original FF7. It's already in Advent Children. It's being explored more and expanded upon, and hopefully going to be sort of explained a little bit clearer by the end of Remake Trilogy. And that is the sort of clarity I personally seek as far as like mystery box stuff. Like, let's fill in the mysteries of the original Advent Children, which I think is what you're saying, as opposed to like, I need a completely new thing to like justify Remake Trilogy existing. Like, that's the sort of mystery I want to see. That, okay, let's fully explore, why is Cloud special? And it seems like we're gonna get that, and it's gonna be awesome. But it's just expanding on the original. Like I said, and you said it too, the church scene with Aerith and the date with Aerith in Rebirth. I was like, oh, this is the forest scene. I played it the day I played that scene. I played the original the day I had played it, and then I was like, well, after he gives the black materia to Sephiroth, he gets the black materia, he goes into the dream scene with Aerith in the forest. It's just it's an expansion of that, and I was like, oh, cool. They're really taking that dream, which by the way happened in OG. Like, it's a physical thing that happened because Sephiroth drops down into it, and it's essentially implied the same thing in the dream in the day. Like, oh, I found you. This is where you are. This impending doom of Sephiroth. Like, so that happened. It's not just like a vision that she sent Cloud, right? Unless you could say it's a vision that Sephiroth also entered, sure. But like, they're just expanding that. Okay, let's make it so this is a dream world that you can literally like go to, and you can trade holy materias in. You can get the one that's replete with the one that's emptied, and then now Cloud has the empty one for a very important reason, I'm sure. Like, You can do all that stuff. It's just an expansion of the same idea. But I guess my point is, and this was kind of the comment I made, is in that dream sequence in the original game, no one saw that and was like, oh my God, multiverse story. God damn it. I love this game. Now it's Marvel. Like, no, it's just, it's expanded. And now Sephiroth's saying this is the nature of reality. There's dream worlds. But for me, I'm like, oh, this is something super original. It's Nojima story, which is obviously the person who wrote Final Fantasy X. Xanarkand, very similar idea. I'm not saying it literally is FF10 mechanics. I'm saying a dream world that fades away where people lived entire lives. By the way,
it's pretty close.
You see what I'm saying? Like,
it's pretty close to Final Fantasy X.
Titus lived his entire life, and you see what I'm saying? It's not like a different timeline or something. It's just it's a dream world where people can exist, hopes and dreams. So I think it's not like entirely crazy thing that's changing everything. It's just expanding.
To push back, I do think that there's these two extremes that people talk about. That
yes,
this is everything is, this is RHG. This is red herring. So all of the hope you have that things could end up different this time is a red herring. All of this, the unknown journey is a red herring. No promises await at journey's end. Red herring. It's all going to end the same, just be more expanded. Or it's completely off the rails. I think the truth is in the middle.
Though. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not red herring. Like, yeah.
I think that for one, I think that Zack is just alive now in the main world.
Oh, you think the last scene he's in our world?
Yeah.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
And that's fine. But I'm less concerned about that, right? Because to me, it isn't about like how you deviate in a way that's artistically interesting. Is less about like who lives or dies, but it's about what lessons are taught. And I do want the remake trilogy to explore the lessons of the OG in a better, more expansive, modern way. However, I do think that the check they've written does require that they teach us some new lessons as well.
And I think they already have. Right? And that's I think they're already cashing, or they're giving us letting us cash in the check that they wrote, and they're going to continue to do it. Like I said, the ending of the game, it's like, oh my God, they did it. They somehow, and it hit me right when Aerith's theme plays. I think that's why it was genius. I'm like, they did it, guys. What's the feeling we all had when Aerith first was like in Cloud's arms in the original? Yeah, but she's not gonna die, like, right? We love Aerith. Like, she's our healer. She's our character in the game. She's mechanically someone that we control. There's no way. This is a video game. She's not gonna die. And then she does that, and you're like, oh my God, like the denial. We all felt that for a second. And the fact that they did that and kind of made it a part of the character and deeply made it from Cloud's perspective while he's, breaking and everything, I thought was super clever. But that also gives something new to the sort of message of the story and has a new play on not just loss, but the feelings that come with loss, of denial and stuff. And then we're going to get the Aerith death scene, I'm sure. Sephiroth's going to show it to Cloud, that the Northern Crater, to completely be like, I told you couldn't save anyone. You thought you saved her? Look at this. I told you already, Cloud. Why don't you trust me? She's dead, and he's going to lose his mind. Or it'll be later. But I think that's the best part to play it. But you see what I mean? I think it's already providing awesome stuff in this game, and it will. Oh yeah, I'm with you, man. It's gonna cash in all kinds of stuff at the end of part 3, and we're still gonna get FF7 story, but with new stuff. But the new stuff isn't gonna it's not gonna disqualify the story of FF7 because there's new stuff, and that's what annoys me. Like I said, people are obsessed with the additive stuff only. Like you said, an obsession with him. Cloud, why is Zack there? Why is Zack there? That should be fucking dead. It's like, okay, just, are we experiencing a story, or are we just obsessed with kind of this one thing, which clearly he's not alive in traditional sense of our world. He's in a dream world that's like, existing on his remnant hopes and dreams where Aerith stuck him to survive. Like, we already have confirmation he's not just, Zack dodged the bullets and is walking around safely,
So, and I will admit that's one of my. That's actually a criticism I have of Advent Children. If I'm being honest, one of the things that the Advent Children did that I felt like undermined Final Fantasy VII is show the white live stream scenes where Aerith is still helping from afar, you know, and the reason I liked the idea that it was sort of a final act of like the lingering will as it faded away. In the OG, I like that idea more. You get that little flicker when you re-enter the church, and then that's like it.
Yeah.
But then,
I see. Yeah.
Then there's this complete like, oh, here's Zack and Aerith together in this white space. They are functionally alive, but in the afterlife. There is no consequence for death beyond the fact that you are in a separate plane, which, when circumstances merit, can merge. And so the
way I'm sorry. You finish.
The way I feel like they can remedy that with Rebirth or with the Retrilogy is eliminate it. And here's my grand theory. Here's the thing that I think will happen. Here's the thing that I think happened is that we saw Aerith not just die, but soul death. Our Aerith farewell scene before chapter 14, when Sephiroth is walking towards
in the church,
walks in church. That's chronologically in the period of her lifespan. You know, like not from our perspective as somebody that's seeing a omnitemporal agent, acting throughout the story. We see the end of her right there. Like that is the terminus. That is the soul death. There is something permanent that happens to Aerith there. And and I think that they might even try to explain that the Aerith that shows up in Advent Children was that Aerith. But I do think there is this. There is a really tricky space on how do you end the Retrilogy and make it link up to Advent Children. And for me, I am of the mind that the best way is to link it and not have it lead. Meaning that the link is non-temporal, that maybe this really is a sequel, that everything does matter, and that finally at the end of the Retrilogy, we get closure as to what really happened, to everybody. I would like the end of part 3 to be the end of the story. That doesn't mean Cloud dies or anything like that.
When you mean what happened to everybody, do you mean like after Dirge of Cerberus, or do you mean like in this new place?
I think after Dirge of Cerberus even, yeah. I think that the loop is closed. This is the final portion of the spiral,
I see what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love the scene in the church. And like I said, I think it's I said from the end of the game immediately, like I think the best way to look at this stuff is the simplest answer all the time. So I'm like, look at the visual language of Cloud and Aerith when they're back to back at the end of Rebirth, and they clasp hands and they have this great shot. It's Advent Children. Mm-hmm. It's a film reference shot that Nomura did in Advent Children that he's referencing here. So that tells me like that's Aerith from Advent Children, right? And like the question is, why wouldn't it be when you're doing a visual reference like that? Simplest answer. Yeah. I'm like, let's start with the simplest, and then we can talk like, okay, but what if that's actually when she died? That is Advent Children Aerith, but this is the end of that, like you said. Now this is like the final. Oops. Now what do? We got to finish it off. But I guess what I mean is, that's how I viewed that. Is they're explaining why Cloud sees Zack and Aerith in Advent Children, is because you see at the end he sees this tear in the sky. Like that's Cloud is in between worlds now, man. Like he's maybe that's why he's special too. Who knows in his whole life, but. He is able to exist in multiple worlds. He's seeing Zack and Aerith who aren't there. He's talking with her like she's there, but he's probably like, what is wrong with this guy? I think it's beautiful too, because, and also I guess the only thing I'll present to you about Advent Children is I cried at the end of Advent Children when Zack and Aerith leave for good. I think it's implied they're gone forever now, because it's implied that Aerith, who, allowed the live stream to come out at the end, that controlled the live stream to come out and save the world, is still hanging on because she feels really bad about Cloud, and she knows that his life is essentially might be ruined because he feels so bad that he almost killed her himself and did not save her. And then Zach is hanging out because Aerith has the power to, work with the live stream. Zach's in there. And then, yeah, he talks to him. And now we see when he says, hey, bud, you need a hand with Sephiroth and Advent Children. Now we get it. They literally fought together in separate worlds at the end of Rebirth. Like, how cool is that? Now it kind of, that scene makes a lot more sense. It's like, damn, yeah, he could actually fight with him right now. And it's like, no, I got this, man. And then, yeah, at the end, they go away forever, man. Because now Cloud's okay. Like you said, kind of his salvation is complete. Aerith and Zach are now dead forever at the end of Advent Children. I don't think it's implied they're going to, like, come back. I think that's it. Now Cloud's going to live his life. And that's why it's beautiful.
Yeah. Something interesting about the difference between complete and the original is there is that specter of Aerith in the field of flowers. That's only in Advent Children. That's not incomplete.
Oh, hey.
So that's a weird that's a weird one.
Yeah.
But so do you think you'd mentioned that they're already doing some things that I think that they give new lessons. And right, I can see from the perspective of like certain side quests have their own like little narrative strings and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
And
totally.
And those have little lessons in them and stuff like that. But they all seem to kind of be serving different character arcs and building your relationship with you being Cloud with these characters. Other than that though, like on a broad, this is a masterwork of literary fiction. What new themes have really been injected into this, do you think?
As far as, well, I don't know if I would say that new themes have been. I think it's an exploration of the older themes, but yeah, like kind of new lessons, new themes. I mean, I would say the denial part at the end, like I mentioned, is really big. It's a different angle on the lost theme of the original, but I think a more profound one, quite honestly. When we look at it as a piece by itself. In the original, we get a really kind of almost like Shakespearean, very stilted monologue from Cloud. Sephiroth is standing there T-posing, and now I will destroy everything, and now I have the power to do it, and no, she's not going to cry again, and everything. But what we've established about Cloud and where he's going, like I said, doesn't really make sense in the story from that perspective. Like, we're experiencing Cloud, who is controlled by Sephiroth, who is his puppet. It's not the time for him to completely break free and be himself and have that moment, So I feel like that's a profound kind of view of denial that, I mean, I literally had the feeling of when I was playing the original. So I thought it was really clever for them to spin that back on me and bring me back to being a kid, essentially experiencing the same feeling, being like, oh, wait, she's alive. Which is funny because we talked about this years ago. It's like, oh, they're probably going to have Aerith die, but there'll be a moment where we're like, oh, she's good. And then she's not, they did it. But then we had this thing up. Yep. And we were still hopeful. We were still trying to kind of go against fate. Isn't that the lesson the original taught us? So I think it's kind of cool how there's like this layered commentary on that sort of thought process. But yeah, I would argue even the idea of the ideas of sort of mental health are a lot more meaningfully explored in this trilogy, and you can't even begin to argue otherwise. To me, it's ridiculous, right? The conversations alone with Tifa and Cloud, I really like to see this humanity and beyond just like cool dialogue and kind of like nice set pieces and interesting conversations. When Cloud opens up, like I said, man, like that was a profound scene, and we've all had those moments where we're feeling like we're completely lost, or we don't know what's going on inside our heads, and we need someone to help. And Tifa says, I'm listening. And then he kind of takes this breath and lets it all out. I thought that was incredibly beautiful. And, showing that you should do that. You should be there for your friends. And you should also, on the other side, be willing to open up and express how you feel, not be afraid of what they might think. So that's just another one right there. I mean, this stuff with Dyne, I think has a whole new kind of angle on the guilt that Barrett has to carry. Obviously, he says it. But I guess that's my point with the Dyne thing. It plays off, it's very dramatic in the original. And it's like, cool, that's crazy. Wow. What's the deeper message of it beyond being like incredibly melodramatic and just like disturbing? Like you said, there's some cool imagery there. Not too much, just that Barrett has been through some stuff. And now it's like, okay, we're exploring the aftermath, mental health. Cloud saying like, hey man, I'm here for you. I mean that. Barrett says, I'm beginning to think you might. That's a whole different exploration of the aftermath of people's feelings, as opposed to just like melodramatic scene, Even if you loved it, even if it's your favorite thing ever.
I really like that. I really liked that exchange, and I like that it's not, like the arc is progresses much more organically. Like there are moments where Cloud is human. Like it's not just like this really stoic, non-communicative sort of very opaque character that then all of a sudden just breaks open. There's this cracking, and I think the crack in the sky is emblematic of that. I think that's what the crack in the sky actually means. Is it's the same as the line that's in the live stream sequence. It's the same yellow line, and I think there's a reason. And I think part 3 is Cloud's mind. Part 3 is the live stream sequence. In a thematic way, mechanically and literally.
To say, like, he's already in that state, like he's seeing. Yeah. You're not saying like we're just in the live stream now the whole time. Yeah.
How literal that manifests mechanically is certainly to be seen. Do you feel that there is an inherent, we'll say, cutting off the branch that you're standing on or sitting on mentality to presenting defying destiny as a core theme of remake, if destiny can't really be defied, if it can only be made into a three-part more complicated or convoluted version of itself?
Well, I think it's more about, I guess, sort of the themes I was just talking about. When we talked about Cloud sort of defying his destiny, again, me and Aaliyah were just doing it. In the original one, he kills Sephiroth. Right? Cloud kind of defies his fate because he's just some weak guy. Like, how the heck does he defeat the most powerful being on the planet? How does he do it and have own children? Nobody really knows. He's stabbed like 40 times and just does it. Wait, what just happened to him? He just powered up and like there's like 10 versions of himself.
Right.
Maybe the dream world versions of Cloud, running around and grabbing the swords and fighting. Like, don't know. It's just kind of there. But I mean, so I guess what I'm saying is, I don't know that defying fate was like ever explicitly written down a million times in the original.
Right.
But to say that the whole point of it is not defying fate is kind of, I think that's what it is, man. At the end, it's like, so we're all gonna die.
Right.
We are going to rage against the night, though.
Right.
We're going to go try and step Sephiroth. And then, hey, if we fail, we're just going to die sooner. But we're not going to sit here and just give up and accept our fate of dying with Meteor. We're going to go do something. That's what the whole ending of the game is. Do you see what I mean? It's not like we're fighting a big guy whose name is Fate and we're literally beating him up like, typical JRPG type stuff. And then he's defeated and we win and then we can be happy. I don't think it's going to be like that. But you see what I mean? It's the same.
I do. For example, I do. And
accepting yourself is
sure.
Another theme. If from your previous question, me and Aaliyah were talking about, Aaliyah said this, that she's cooking, man. She was like, what's the difference between Sephiroth and Cloud is that Cloud accepts himself. You know what I mean? Like, he accepts that he's just a guy.
Yes.
And that's why he's able to defeat Sephiroth. He's a guy who loves his loved ones very much and cherishes them. He's not like, I'm going to be really strong and, be he doesn't care. He just wants to protect people. Whereas Sephiroth cannot accept himself. He says, I'm going to be totally something different. I'm going to destroy the world, or I'm going to become a god, whatever it is. So I think that's another interesting aspect of it. But yeah, I guess my point is, defying fate, man, the whole end of FF7 is definitely exploring some pretty cool stuff where if you were to kind of use that language in the remake trilogy near the end, I mean, I think it works perfectly. It's not gonna like, oh, they mentioned fate, oh my god, multiverse, fate, kill it. You know what I mean? It's,
I definitely agree. The response is a little hyperbolic, and I do think fate and destiny were components of the original. Ain't no getting off this train is absolute commentary on fate. However, there is a difference between a remake that is aware of itself on a meta level and makes references to itself on a meta level, saying, hey, we know you know what happens. We're defying fate. And I think there is something, I want to say, that undermines some of the core narrative themes that the game attacks by getting looped into that bootstrap paradox. And that those are things like environmentalism. You know, a lot of Final Fantasy VII is centered around this call to action. You know, it's not too late. We can act. Okay? But if fate is fixed on a meta level and only not fixed on the subtextual level, it subverts that a little bit. The other thing is poverty. Because really, when they use the ain't no getting off this train, they're talking about the class divide. They're talking about capitalism in the originalism. And they're doing the same. They're doing the same here. A little less so. I wish they would lean into the class divide a little bit more. They did.
Well,
they
I
did,
think go ahead.
They did do some, but like, I hope that they lean really hard in part 3 at least, and kind of that.
My thought on the environmentalism message, because again, I just played the ending of part 1 the other day, is that part 3 is where it really is explored, because at the end it's like the weapons awaken, and then what does Diamond Weapon start attacking? It's Rufus, dude. It's Shinra. He's going to destroy Midgar, like the original, like, you know, sucking the life stream out of the planet place.
100%.
Because are humans a good thing? Have we made a horrible impact on the planet? Like, should we just go away? And of course, that's explored with the last scene 500 years later. And all that stuff. Like, does the party die at the end? When we first played it, pre-Advent Children, and you rolled credits, you're like, did they die? You know what I mean? Was that the message of the game? So yeah, I think it's coming up. A lot of the payoff that they're setting up is going to be totally in part 3, not just the new stuff, like the kind of message of the original. I think it's very visually explored in the original. Again, that's why I think remake is so much better at kind of voicing stuff. And some people might argue like, oh, they're saying too much. But yeah, I think they should have that conversation as a party. It's like, man, maybe the weapons are right. Like, do we fight against the weapons?
Yeah.
Like, why are we going to stop the weapon from destroying Midgar? It's the planet. It's what she wants, you know? So I think it's definitely there.
I think they're also adding complexity to the planet, because I think there's an argument can be made that nature is not always right. Nature is amoral, I think they're adding complexity to the Cetra too. That you know, it seems like they built this. The Temple of the Ancients actually looks like it tells a story of the Cetra's failings, as awesome. Much as. And, you know, the Gi tribe did a fantastic job of sort of saying, hey, they were not tolerant. You know, they described them as xenophobes, which was really fascinating.
Yeah, super fun, because we're always just like, oh, the ancients were awesome. It's like, maybe not.
They didn't like the Gi tribe.
And this is what I love.
They were outsiders,
Yeah, this is what I love. Like, the Gi tribe, you know, extremely good lore expansion with the Black Materia and stuff. That's what kind of got me into that mindset of like, oh, that's what this game is doing. Oh, hell yeah, sign me up. Like, we're explaining stuff in the original. It's just like, why is the Black Materia exist? Like, who would make that? It's like a horrible idea. You know, where did it come from? Yeah, it's just this really powerful thing. Okay, cool. And now it's like, oh, we have a really meaningful reason that it exists. The Gi tribe is tragic. The ancients are now ambiguous. Like, he's like, man, were they good people? They really failed near the end and got too, you know, proud and xenophobic, and you know, and terrible to the
perhaps even fell to some of the trappings of technology. If you look at all of the final weapons in the Temple of the Ancients, they all look like hardcore Mako punk designs. They look straight up from the future, but then you read the descriptions, they were made by the Cetra. All of the weapons, like the Slipstream saber, looks like it could have come out of the hands of lightning. And
totally, man, I loved it.
And it was made 2,000 years ago. You know, like that's wild.
That's the sort of payoff I want, man. The part 3, I want Waka to come out. The teachings. What about the teachings?
And so this kind of goes back to the other point, is that what are new lessons they could teach? And one of them is war. They could talk more about war. And it sounds like there's a war in part 3 that was absolutely not in the OG.
When
it's not an expansion of shit. It is a new war. Wu-Tai
It's
is
gonna
back.
be Wu-Tai like hitting the beaches with Diamond Weapon, man. Oh yeah, it's gonna be crazy.
And then we've got Sephiroth playing both sides, so that
Oh
like
yeah,
the
this
corruption
is
yeah.
dude. That scene is kind of under the radar for most people because we're all reeling from what happened with Aerith. Like
Yeah.
at the end,
It was badly
that scene
placed.
Is good though. It's a good scene, man. Like the
No,
fact that
it's not.
the
You're wrong about
horror- No, it's a good scene, man. The twist of Sephiroth.
No.
Because here's the thing,
No.
it was a good twist because Glenn, where like, listen, he's just the Ever Crisis
Right.
guy, so we have no reason to like ever suspect that it's not
Okay,
Glenn. because we don't know enough about him.
No, Ever Crisis guy was written for Rebirth and then added to Ever Crisis.
Yeah, that's what I heard. That's
Yeah.
what I heard.
Yeah.
But you see what I mean? Like from our perspective, we don't know him well enough to like suspect that he's Sephiroth. So I thought it was such a cool twist, and it was absolutely horrifying
Sure,
because
yeah.
we just realized we all fought Sephiroth at the same time in different worlds. Like, you know, when you cut off his horn as Zack, Barrett sees it fly off. It's like, oh my god, he's literally transcending all reality at the same time. That's how powerful he is. While he's like gaming Rufus and like deceiving Rufus and stuff. It's terrifying. He's such a scary villain, man. He can exist in all these places, manipulate people.
Yeah,
Like,
he's also like, you know, he's also taken the world by storm with the hit trading card game Queen's Blood.
Yes,
You know?
absolutely.
You know, he's even
Absolutely.
using gotcha mechanics to
Ooh,
to,
yeah.
to woo the world.
Fancy. Very fancy. But no,
absolutely.
listen, when Rufus unloads that clip, I was like, oh, this is raw, man. This is raw. I really liked it.
I would have been okay. I think the tonal disconnect was weird. It didn't belong right there. I
The
think
scene itself.
The scene
I see what
itself.
you're saying.
And we could have done with maybe 2 or 3 more blend scenes.
Oh yeah,
I think just to kind of make that happen. There was some executive stuff with the Rufus stuff that was really, you know, I'm sure they'll deliver fine on that in part 3. But it was kind of, for me, it was one of those things that was, you were sort of talking about goofiness,
the wackiness. Yeah,
the wackiness. I would take a million this is supposed to be wacky scenes to this is accidentally wacky. And the Glenn stuff often came across accidentally wacky. Now, I am holding out hope.
Okay.
Is like, for instance, the voice actor ended up being surprisingly good for Glenn. I really like his vocal
I liked him.
performance.
I did like him. Yeah.
He's really good. And you know, I'll admit some of this is just like, I'm really afraid he's Cloud's dad, and that sucks. You know, they're doing more dumb stuff to make it possible. They're giving themselves the option to write this in. Okay, I have another question, and then we'll get into audience questions.
Yeah.
I know you play the game like kind of currently.
Yes.
Were you aware that prior to the previous patch, there was a Terrier stamp in Junon, and there was a Terrier stamp in the Gold Saucer?
No, I wasn't aware. So this was like right when it first came out, you're saying, and then they fixed
The
it?
first 2 patches, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's
What-
cool.
yeah.
But they took it out, which means they don't want to voice that. Do you think it was a mistake?
Well, it was obviously a mistake if they patched it out. But
Well,
the
that's what I mean,
nature
like,
of the
yeah,
mistake, the nature of the mistake has brought up some controversy. That being that they're kind of making this up as they go along.
Oh, no way. You really think that?
Do
Or
I
people
really
are
think
saying
that? Well, I
Yeah.
have the answer, but I can't say it publicly, so we'll talk after the stream. But I want to know what your take is.
No, I don't think they're making up a lot. Like, just because Rebirth, like I said, legitimized the end of Remake for me.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. And listen, when you say making it up, as what do you know, and how extreme are you saying that? Like, yeah, I'm sure there's stuff they're adjusting, like any writer does as they're working on the projects. You know, it's a 10-year project. They didn't have an exact outline that never changed one word.
1 billion
10 years,
percent.
There's no way.
And people,
it's
and
a ridiculous
it's
thing to
absolutely
ask.
ridiculous.
Ridiculous
And
impossibility.
I was hoping you'd say that, and I agree. It is something that's happened. Is one, the nature of information that's being passed is different now, and we're all terminally online, and so
Yes.
we're all seeing how the sausage is made. Every anthology goes through an adjustment period, sometimes with massive adjustments.
Yes, listen, I mean,
yeah.
I guess the example I'll use is, I don't know if you're familiar with Brandon Sanderson, everyone was in chat. He's like the most organized writer ever, the most outlined, like every single thing is planned for the ending before he starts writing the book. Everything is perfectly done. And, you know, he's writing like a saga called the Stormlight Archive. It's like 10 years in the making. The 5th final book is coming out later this year. He's still, of course, adjusting little things within it, but he figured out the ending, you know, 10 years ago. He's like the most organized guy ever. He's like a machine. He writes like 3 books a year, whatever. Do you see my point? Like, there's no way that any human is not going to make adjustments. What I don't think, though, is that those adjustments are like, I'm going to watch Philip and Baby Seal talk. Ooh, all right, they didn't like the dine scene. All right, let's change some similar stuff in part 3. Like, no, they're not doing that level of kind of like, you know, micro, like public opinion type stuff. Like, yeah, I'm sure they're weighing if there's like massive stuff that the fans don't like, they'll consider like leaning into stuff slightly less. But the story's the story, man.
No, I think they are doing that, and I think they even said that.
Well, listen,
in the interview with the Samsung, I think they do listen to some, at least some of us.
No, they said they listen. They said they listen, but you see what I mean? Like, I know they listen because they obviously took my Masamune idea and put it in Evercrisp. All right, Namora obviously watched what I said. But, no, I'm just kidding. But like, am I? But yeah, listen, it's it's they're not like, go back to the drawing board for part 3, guys. Like, do you realize how they're already working on part 3? They can't be changing it after part 2 comes out, you know? Every
creative division takes feedback, right?
Yeah.
And if you're collaborating with a bunch of different, if this were one unified vision, that'd be one thing. But this is this is a collaborative effort. Every collaborative effort will check itself against peer review, period. So yes, they absolutely watched a lot of content creators breaking down the story and saw, oh, this is an inconsistency. If we go this way, they helped us crowdsource a problem, a continuity. You would hope that's all taken care of internally, but that is a dream world statement that doesn't actually happen in reality. Nobody has the staff to quality control stories that way, unless you're extremely anal or it's a singular vision. Like, when a collab team, the best thing that you can do when you have multiple ideas at play trying to be brought together by a source is to peer check it. You know, that absolutely happens. Yeah,
totally. And listen, they definitely watch our stuff. I mean, you know, even talking to Yoshi P at the FF16 thing, he was like, "Oh yeah, I watch your stream and stuff," and it was just like this surreal thing to hear. But then it's like you just said, yeah, why wouldn't they like check what people are saying about the games and see what they have to do? When
Nojima got his bonus check for Final Fantasy VII, he bought a computer with it, and he went on the internet, and he saw a bunch of people were really sad. They were really sad about Aerith dying. And so as a result, no characters died except for Squall in Final Fantasy VIII. That's a true story. He said that in an interview. I'm just
laughing at your Squall comment.
Squall joke, yeah.
That's awesome.
That's a deep cut.
No, that's great. But no, I think I really like the way they work, and I think you're right, they're very self-aware of what they're doing, and it would be unhealthy if they were completely in a vacuum, just like putting stuff out there, because, you know, art does have a give and take in a really important way, and I hope they have the integrity as any artist should to say what they want to say. But in a project this big with so many, you know, gameplay elements, and I would assume a lot of it is more gameplay leaning that they're like adjusting from fan feedback, which I think they already said too. That, oh yeah, we like wanted to work on the battle system or whatever, mini games, traversal with Cloud and all that stuff. I think that's more the like huge changes that they would make, as opposed to like, oh, you know, yeah, we had some ideas that we made Advent Children around 15 years ago, but, you know, let's just change those now because, like, you know, Philip didn't like it, right? I don't think they would completely change their entire vision. So I think we're on the same page.
Yeah, absolutely. Ever notice how Kojima is one letter away from Nojima? Yeah, hey, I have noticed that.
Never seen them together. So,
I'm gonna ask one more weird question, and then we'll take audience questions. So
Yep.
start throwing them out there. Kitase apparently gave Nomura some homework. I asked this at the Mac stream too, and he said he had an idea.
Oh, I heard about that. Yeah.
He had an idea that wasn't in the original that he really would like to see come to fruition in part 3. And Nomura has been scratching his head onto how to make that work, and he hopes he can. What if you can't think of what you think that the answer is? Because it's hard. Like, that one's so vague, right?
I mean, it literally could be anything.
It could be anything. What are things that were not in the original that you would like to see explored in part 3? And you cannot answer, I would like more explanation for X. New things.
I have a great idea. A great idea because I already said it. It's a new Masamune Sephiroth idea, which they took my idea before. So listen up, guys. Listen up. Okay. So I think it'd be really cool if Sephiroth gets his own sort of live stream-esque scene, not like Cloud's, but as we say, he's kind of he's creating himself again. He's reinventing himself. He's going to be reborn. I think it'd be really cool if we have, and I think it's a good place to put Genesis. I think it'd be cool to see Genesis here as opposed to like coming in at the 11th hour and like doing some empty mechanic and then dying and disappearing. I think it'd be really cool to see Genesis here, kind of trying to be Tifa for Sephiroth. I don't mean romantically. I mean, he undresses himself. No, I'm saying he shows up and he's like, hey man, like, look at who you were. Come back to me. Come back to us. Because Genesis is effectively kind of like a champion of the planet now, right? Like, look at this, man. You were good once. Look at these memories of us. And we can see Angeal and Genesis when they were friends. New scenes, not Crisis Core stuff. Let's get good, meaningful, new content that explains Sephiroth's character, where he's going, why he was the way he was. His dream that it's actually said in Ever Crisis. He kind of wants to save everyone, but then I think he faces the harsh reality during the war that he can't save everyone, and it's very upsetting to him. So it could be really cool. And I said this is sort of what Sephiroth is doing. Is I think he's in a really sad, tragic way. I think in a sad, tragic way, like Sephiroth is trying to save everyone in Final Fantasy VII. He's trying to time compression, like Ultimecia from Final Fantasy VIII. He's trying to combine the worlds and create this stasis of just absolution.
And fucking awesome.
You like it? Yeah. So he's
gonna so good.
This is his sad, twisted version of that dream, and it's
that's
pathetic.
why he chose Glenn as a body. That's why he chose Cloud's dead.
It's sad
as an icon.
Yeah,
oh my
sad.
god!
And it's like, imagine that, right? It's this sad, like I do want to save everyone, but it's a demented version of it, and it's wrong. And it's pathetic, and I think it'd be really cool if we get this scene where Genesis is kind of trying to appeal to him, and it's just like they play on the tragedy of Sephiroth more. And they actually said this in a quote for part 3. They said like, "Hey, yeah, we're gonna get all the scenes, but it's very much about Sephiroth too." Yeah. They said that in a recent interview, and I was like, "Oh, maybe they'll do my scene," but I think it'd be really strong, man. And again, we can see meaningful scenes with Sephiroth. I want to see the Ever Crisis stuff personally. Too, like show me the Masamune stuff, show me where he gets it, show me how he gets it, show me him realizing he can't achieve that dream, that everybody can't be saved, and then let's go from there. But I think it could be really strong, and then maybe the ending of the game, the true defeat, as you say, like that final payoff, which I want too. I think that's why a lot of people misinterpret what I say about like, yeah, it's just OG. Like, I want finality too, but I want it to work within the continuity of everything, but also be like, and now when we watch Advent Children after, we'll be like, yes, it is actually over. Awesome. Do you know what I mean? But I think it'd be really cool when at this point, this idea of trying to save everyone with the, what's the word he uses, Baby Seal? It's escaping me right now. Not combine worlds, eternity. Yeah, but reunion, but he says like an eternity. What does he say? Like a rule over eternity. Oh, rule over eternity. He says on Bizarro Sephiroth's description. Yeah. A resurrected being who's going to merge all the worlds, the reunion,
right.
And rule
eternity
over eternity
doesn't exist. Not yet.
Right.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. So it's so FF8, right? Time compression. It's so cool. And I think it'd be really cool if it's tragic. And they have that conversation with Kate Sith in Cosmo Canyon where he says, hey man, is Sephiroth a good guy then? If he's trying to, like, what's going on? And they're all like, no comment. You know what I mean? It's a super interesting
like,
conversation.
Yeah, clearly not. You know.
Yeah, clearly not. But it's like interesting thought. What is he doing exactly?
And so, First Soldier, by the way, at the time of this podcast, which is early May, the First Soldier's 2 next chapters are going to come to Ever Crisis on the 15th, and so hopefully we'll get a little bit more, and
yes,
I'll definitely be streaming them, so that you don't have to.
I can't wait.
And
thank you.
And the okay, so I love that. I love the idea.
Yeah, what do you think?
I love the idea that we get an explanation for Sephiroth wanting to have this really broken, childlike, nothing can die, like a really unhealthy attachment to his loved ones, or the things that he never had, the family he never had. I love the idea of that being developed in First Soldier through like his relationship with Glenn and Rosen.
And what's the best scene with Sephiroth, and the most kind of like pathos laden scene with him, and disturbing scene at the same time. You see him, mother, now we'll be together forever.
Yeah,
and it's just like, it's so unnerving and sad and creepy and foreboding. And then he rips the thing out, violent action. We'll be together forever. Mother's like, wait, does he love her or not? And then it's like, is he threatening her or not? And then I would love to see Genova Complete as her final form in OG. I would love to see Genova Complete, man. I want her to get all her cells back, stand up and start talking. I want to see the visuals of her saying, "It's okay, my son," holding him like he did in front of her at the thing.
Yeah, I think it'd be very creepy. I love that.
Really
I love
creepy.
that.
Right, and you can play it into this whole thing, and then maybe they play up the whole like, wait, is he being controlled? But then you see like, oh, in a really kind of like unhealthy, disturbing way, oh, he's definitely in control, and it's not in a loving manner. I think they would kind of really play with that relationship, because man, in Rebirth, that shit gave me chills to see it brought to life in Nibelheim. That final scene, it's like, oh, I want more of this, man. I want more of this. So anyway, that's my new Masamune crazy idea.
Okay, yeah, I like that. I like that a lot more. I mean, I think we'll probably get some kind of explanation for Masamune at some point. But no, one of the weirdest things about Ever Crisis is seeing in the opening movie, like Sephiroth is laying over like this pile of behemoth zeros that he's just mercilessly slaughtered, and he's panicking. He's like, come on, pick up, and he's dialing Genesis, and it's like this this first look of like this neurotic, like childlike, like just desperate for attachment and love, and like it's the first like view of that we see, and it makes sense that by the time that Nibelheim happens, he's cold, detached. Tifa describes him as cold and detached. He's in the Rebirth.
He's also like dead serious.
Yeah, in the Nibelheim incident, he has the little warming moments, and it's like almost uncomfortable when he's like joking around with Zack and stuff like that. And they do humanize him and stuff like that, but he seems more like he's detached from whatever weird neurotic shit he's going through, pre Glenn's getting back shots from Rufus.
Oh yeah. That's the thing though. It's like, listen, I want to see that Sephiroth. Like, is he afraid that his friend is dead? Please pick up. What does that mean? And I want to see that kind of like, and then how did he lose that?
That's good.
But then picture, Genesis in the live stream, like kind of trying to appeal to him, and maybe he's like, no, I don't need you anymore. You betrayed me. And maybe he destroys Genesis there. But I think it'd be a meaningful place for Genesis, and not like, let's have him appear at the last second of the whole trilogy and like do what, in my opinion, would be like not what I would prefer for like a mystery box answer sort of payoff. Like I'd rather see him more integrated than just like, oh, there he is, and now he's gone. So that's my thought, and that's my new theory, everybody.
I love it. Here's my only issue with it. I hope that they find a way to pull it meaningfully enough out of Ever Crisis and put it in part 3 that people understand it.
I agree. I don't want them to say like, go play Ever Crisis.
Yeah.
which could be deleted in like a year. By the way, Ever Crisis, like just like First Soldier was. So yeah, hopefully it's just like it's there and it's in one place. And are you gonna take audience questions in a second?
Yes, and I have my first one pulled aside. So
okay, give me 1 second, and then I'm ready.
Go do your thing. And audience questions come in here. I have Joshy Poo's already lined up. It's a really good question. I have it copy pasted just in case I lost it. So if you have them, either highlight it or at me. Okay, I've got one from Halloween. One from Drumjod. You know, I think that the language is clear enough that the Gi made the black materia. To say the Cetra weren't involved is not technically accurate. I don't think they were mechanically involved. I think that their xenophobia was the reason that the Gi mechanically created it. But we're not only given that explanation from Guy Natak, who says that kind of describes what it does and that they made it, but in chapter 13 it physically shows the Gi tribe manufacturing the black materia. So I don't think the Cetra were necessarily involved in its creation. I don't think that's the takeaway. I think the takeaway is that the Cetra did find a way to seal it away. So, I'll answer that. Okay. Okay, Grand Styles has a Chadley question I'm definitely going to ask. Oh, I love that chap. I love my boy. What do you think the rainbow effect is? That's a good question. Oh, man. Oh, man.
Hello. Hey, yeah, and one of the reasons I said all that was because I just played the original. Sephiroth doesn't speak ever again. On disc 3 or before it, he just like breaks cloud and then becomes a god and just sits there. So I think I could use more characterization for him.
Again, I've been like hoisted on a stake for saying that, but I think that Sephiroth in the OG would be a meaningless seeming character in modern storytelling standards by far.
Yeah,
in the OG he completely coasted on how cool he looked. It was 100% it.
And his theme song by Nobuo.
And his theme song,
Those chosen, but it's just too cool.
Well, no, One Winged Angel I'm of the age now where it's like impossible to explain how cool One Winged Angel is. Most people are like that shit's so played out. But you had a PS1 disc that had a bunch of MIDI sounding like beep boop tracks, and then somebody starts singing and your mind breaks. You're like, how is that possible? How did they put that on a CD with all these 3D graphics? It's so hard. It was so like you weren't expecting it. You start hearing vocals. Like, what the fuck is going on?
Chills inducing.
So
like,
cool. Yeah.
10 out of 10. Yeah.
But now it's like, it's like yesterday's trash. They absolutely had to do that. Okay. So audience questions time. We're going to start with my good friend Joshy Poo 25, who also makes fantastic videos. And I've now spent a lot of time with IRL. Okay, he says, I'm still having trouble reconciling Rebirth's dreams with Remake's timeline police whispers. Was the IRL continuity altered? Are timelines the same as dreams? If so, what were the timeline police doing in Zack's dream?
So I think the most important thing that I'm having trouble with this question is like you're using language that was created by the fandom and was not created by the source material. So like when you're talking about timelines, that doesn't exist in Remake and Rebirth. We have speculation that it does.
No, it exists.
But like, I mean, the language you're using is like very
well. No, they use the word
definitive.
They use the word timelines in the whisper descriptions.
Oh, you mean when they try to keep fate? You're saying.
So yeah, they said
right. Like there's
came from a future timeline to protect themselves. Like, so they use the word timeline, but it's unfortunately kind of like a localization choice because they don't really use the word timeline in Japanese. And
now you mean the description and like the assessment of them?
And the assessment uses the word timelines. Okay. Yeah.
Right.
That's the only time though.
Yeah, because there's no mention of that in the story and the mechanics
the
as
dialogue,
explained by Sephiroth. Like, yeah. Because when we get, this is the nature of reality from Sephiroth, that's pretty much all I need to know. Like he's explaining everything right there. Dream worlds and everything. So I think effectively, yes, Joshy Poo, it's the same as Dream Worlds because that's and I think this can be the problem with, again, like trying to look at it as only additive, is if you look at only like with a microscope, this like one thing which was in a description of a monster as more important than the dialogue in the actual story. Right. So watch out for that. I think if you're looking at it only as meta and not as its own story, like it'll drive you down a rabbit hole that might not lead you to a satisfying place.
Right. I think you cannot deny that at its core, this thing is most mechanically an adaptation of Final Fantasy VII. And so totally. So there are going to be both things that are additive on top the meta, like you said, but there are things
of that.
That are at their core different and expanded. And
I think the meta is more like, oh, you watched Advent Children, so you're going to be like, that looks like Aerith and Advent Children. Wait, is that like future Aerith, or is that just how this Aerith was created? That Cloud talks to you up till Advent? Like it's making us ask these questions in a meaningful way, as opposed to like the opposite, which is like, oh yeah, this is a meta commentary on why we hate the fans and we want to ruin. It's just like no.
And I also think that the Re-Trilogy does this thing where it presents things as or questions that the answer to is yes. Like, is she from the future, or is she in the live stream? And the answer is yes.
Yeah, that's my point about a lot what I'm saying when I said, and again, like, don't take it, you have to take it with a grain of salt when I said either of these are the same thing. It's like, no, it's not the exact same thing, but like you said, this or this, yes.
Yeah.
Like, okay, did Sephiroth kill true Aerith in the church? I think he did, because he stabs in a different place, and then she dies without getting stabbed, right? And then he was in the church. Or did Cloud deflect? Or did he not deflect? And he's in complete denial, lost his mind. It doesn't really change what they're gonna do on a kind of like grand scale. It'll change the sort of micro mechanics of the dream worlds and how they function, and like cool payoff for that. But does it change the effectiveness of the scene? Not really. Whichever one it was.
But okay, but to his point, what it sounds like is that the function of the whispers is to course correct, because that is language that's used, like protecting destiny. And so it is hard to reconcile the idea that all of these different live stream world fragments, do they have independent destinies, or is there a grand destiny of all of them that the whispers are working against?
Aaliyah had a great kind of point on this, and she asked me, because she was asking me like as a lore master myself, like, so Philip, is there one life stream through all the worlds, or do they all have their own life stream? And I was like, I think there's one. That's my answer, because Sephiroth says again, like, if she were to die, so too were her children. Like, it's all one life stream. It's all the planet, but like this is dreamscapes and dream worlds that exist in here of hopes and possibilities. But when they die, they have a homecoming. They just rejoin the life stream. Like, it's all one thing. So I don't know if you have a different answer, Baby Seal. That's mine. There's one life stream that's like orchestrating everything that's happening. And then she also said like, oh, so she had some really cool ideas because I answered that. She's like, oh, does that mean like the reunion, like Genova, there's only one Genova too, right? I was like, yes, I believe there's only one Genova. She's like, okay, so by that logic, Zack has Genova cells. Zack is in Dream World, C or wherever he ended up at this point. By the end, it's a mystery on purpose. There's no stamp shown. So, like, for Genova to be complete, which we just fought her at the end of the original Genova complete, like, we need Zack to go to the reunion. So Sephiroth wants his mother complete. He wants every timeline to come together so his mother can be complete finally and reawaken. And I was like, that's a great point, Aaliyah, you genius. Right? So you see what I'm saying? Like, it's look at it as simple terms. Look at it more simple than you guys are. Like, the reunion. What is it? So it's Genova coming back together. Okay. Let's now, like, reverse engineer that. What is he calling it the reunion of worlds? Why would he do that? To rule over eternity? How is he going to do that? Does he want his mother complete to do that? You see what I mean? Like, let's reverse engineer it, not try to make more complex questions from the complex questions, if that makes sense.
I hear what you're saying.
So.
The mechanics of the live stream are they're not ultra well defined because we know that the live stream is a physical thing called Mako that you can use as a fuel source. So we know that there's this physical thing where you can suck it up and turn it into, like, machines powered stuff.
And it is pretty much souls. It's like people's souls. Like, to simplify it.
Yeah, it's Soylent Green, spiritual green.
Yeah.
And we know that materia is made out of it. So there's this physical component of it. We also know that it has this power to manifest things in reality. Like, through sheer willpower, Sephiroth manifests Kadaj, Laz, and Yazoo from within the live stream.
Yeah.
So it's almost like the best way I could describe it is the physics question: is light a particle or a wave? And the answer is yes. Again, right?
Yeah.
And I do understand when people get frustrated with mechanics like that, because they have you get into Deus Ex Machina territory where they could just be used as a hand wave to describe everything. But I am not seeing information that's presented to me that's saying that there are necessarily independent live streams shown to us in the Trilogy. If you consider the compilation, though, there is something called a universal live stream. There is something called the stagnant live stream. And there's something called the negative live stream. But I think one of the things that the Trilogy has made clear is that they're going to clarify all of those concepts and sometimes even retcon them. And they were even clear about that in the Ultimania. They said, hey, some of this stuff didn't add up because it's been 25 years of different directors doing different shit. So we're making a grand unified theory of the lore. So
yes. That's what I've viewed the Trilogy as. Like, it's a revision to make everything make sense.
Yeah, and I think that most likely we're walking away with an understanding of the live stream that it's a singular universal entity that can get broken up into different pieces or worlds when things happen. Like in this case, Destiny is broken. I think the new worlds were literally created at the end of Remake. Most of the new worlds were created as a result of what we did. So why did the time janitors need to exist? I think, in a grand scheme, all that we know about the Whispers' original purpose is that they manifest to protect the future that gave birth to them. That's what we know of the original Whispers. And we know they have time-related powers. And we know that Sephiroth probably controls some of them, and Aerith controls the rest. And I think that the rest of their mechanics are vibes. The black ones are, Sephiroth because he represents chaos. The white ones are Aerith because Aerith represents purifying Cloud's corruption, and so it's emblematic of the same way that
it's natural versus unnatural. And like I said, all you have to understand, don't overcomplicate it, is that the Whispers are like similar to a weapon of the planet. They're a tool of the planet. He wants to preserve the fate of the planet that is like ordained by the planet. And some mechanic. Is it some sort of vision of the future? Is it from the future? They know the fate of the planet, and they're protecting it.
I do think
Sephiroth and Aerith.
I do think though that a counter argument to don't oversimplify it is presented in a way that seems confident that it knows its mechanics work right, and
yes,
that there is probably like it's presented in a way that it should be understandable. And
I think that they can't reveal too much though, because then we'll know the whole story, right? So it has to be in part 3 that we're like, oh yeah, we can sit here and be like, this is exactly the mechanics. But if they tell us now, it's like, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, or we can judge it for how well it did that or not, how well it kept its promise.
Right, and then we can judge it. But I guess all that matters on like the kind of basics of the story right now is that look at the end of Rebirth, man. It's clarifying so much. Okay, it's the life stream personified. It's the cries of the planet is how I've personally looked at it. What the whispers are. It's kind of what Sephiroth says at the end of Remake anyway. And then he can tap into the knowledge of the planet. He takes it. He hijacks it. Aerith gets control of it in a pure way. He like steals the knowledge for himself. And now they're having a face-off inside the live stream, and it's that's what's gonna happen. I don't know that it needs to be anything more than that. It's the fate of the planet is what they are, just like Nanaki says. Arbiters of fate. They're protecting fate. For some reason, they want Aerith to die. Oh no, he says at the end of Rebirth. Like, what does that mean? So yeah, I think it's pretty much spelled out the stuff that you need to understand. They say in the game, And at the end of part 3, I'm sure they'll explain a little bit more, but maybe not all of it. I think a little tiny bit of ambiguity is fun.
Yeah, I think there's a healthy amount. They need to present enough to teach the lessons that they're trying to teach. That's the important thing to me. And I think that a lot of those lessons are the lessons of the OG just fleshed out. Things like mental health, identity, finding who you are, embracing your true self as, the true source of actualized change in the world is embracing your honest self. That's a core crux. We need to save the planet. That's a lesson that we need to get taught.
Environmentalism. Mm-hmm. Are humans, should they exist?
Yeah.
Are we a bad thing?
Capitalism is bad for humanity. I would like them to maybe potentially try and dig that. That's the one I think they're most pulling away from. But that's you win some, you lose some.
I was definitely anti-Shinra in the game. I mean,
I feel like Shinra's given a lot more layers, and I think that's okay too. I think it's important to give ambiguity to all of the entities.
Man, look at Rufus. I think Rufus is he's always one of my favorites because he's kind of so interesting, but they've given something to explore with that interesting nature now. And that's why I thought the stuff with Glenn was cool.
Middle manager is the guy now, dude. That guy is Shinra personified. He's the real Shinra. He's the guy in the weeds. He's the middle manager. And he's the guy that really he tries his hardest, does his best, probably cheats on his wife with his best friend. It's a long story. Anyways, I digress.
I love it, man.
I digress. I think I think that whatever they're doing, like, they can leave some ambiguity if it serves the lesson they're trying to teach. They don't have to explain every little thing. There's for sure. That's part of the, they didn't at the end of OG, and I don't think they will. Hey,
if you want it to be faithful to OG, man, they're not going to explain anything. It's going to be completely confusing.
I know. I think personally, I think the best way to be faithful to the original is to be original. And so I really do hope that we get some a new lesson that we hadn't thought of. I really want to be surprised by part 3, and I do think they're building into that. Any Zack 3 predictions? Will he be a permanent party member? Will he replace Cloud for some time due to story reasons, or will it be another case of splitting Zack's side of the story like they did in Rebirth?
So I spoke on this in my recent talk with Aaliyah. There's an opportunity where obviously we lose our main character in the OG for quite a bit of time. That could be the time. Guess what time it's after? The reunion of worlds. It's implied is going to be permanent this time. It's not going to be so two do they part. So it's going to be a good opportunity for Zack to join the party while Cloud is out of commission. The question is, to what end? And then would Zack be gone by the time Cloud comes back, or would he be with us? I personally I don't see. It's not even that I wouldn't like it. I just don't see them having Cloud and Zack on the same party at the same time. For like half the game or something, because it's just two Buster Sword users. Also, what does that do for Cloud's character? Maybe something really cool, maybe a new lesson we hadn't thought of. But I think, like, I don't know, maybe Zack dies for real after he's on the party for a bit, and then Cloud has his live stream moment, or maybe when the reunion of worlds happen, Zack has to give his Genova cells to Genova, maybe, so then he just dies at the reunion. I don't know, maybe there's a climactic moment there, but then you have to ask yourself, they're setting up Zack so cleverly now. And it's funny because I've seen people complain about this. I'm like, you are FF7 and art illiterate, my friend. People who are like, oh, why did they show Zack and the Cloud thing? Zack died in the river and stuff. Why would they do that? Why would they have Zack, Cloud remember Zack existing and saying, my girlfriend Aerith, she's beautiful, I love her. Like, I mean, come on, man. It's so good. They're building up the sort of the revelation of Nibelheim so cleverly as a slow build up, as opposed to just like a dump on Cloud, where he thinks he's perfect, and he's just, you know, he was in Nibelheim the whole time. It's so smart to have him realize that Zack died, and realize how sad it is that he doesn't remember his friend dying, and then realize, oh wait, that's Aerith's boyfriend. What the heck is going on here? It's just so smart how they're building it up, man. So I don't see them building it up so nicely and then just being like, anyway, let's just kill the big revelation moment and have Cloud and Zack chilling for the rest of the game. So I feel like if they do that, they'll definitely have all that payoff come before, and in which case Zack would, I think they would put the Zack dying scene revelation of Cloud, like what actually happened to him, in the live stream sequence, as a part of those memories, as opposed to like, it's an optional scene in Shinra Mansion basement. So that's my answer, I guess.
I think that he will stay separate for a long time.
You think so?
For most of the game.
I'd be fine with that.
I don't know. I don't know if that means he's going to be. I think they're definitely going to delay any interaction between the two till something till something climactic.
I want that to happen. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if they do it, that's the time to have him join the party when our main character leaves. You know.
I like, they've got to do a lot of work to make Sid a satisfying and plausible party leader. To the point where it's like, I almost wonder if they can do it. Tifa leading the party worked for me fine. I was totally okay with that. But suddenly Sid, like, and then you're fighting. I mean, we really need. I think there is a real issue with, like, there was a real feeling of missing Cloud when he wasn't in your party that worked really well in the game, and I do hope that we get that. And if Zack is there, it feels like you miss Cloud for the wrong reasons, not because you feel like an absence of your main character, but because instead you have this other character that it fills the same space. Whereas
that's what I mean. It's like almost too, especially having them together the whole game. I'm like, nah, it doesn't seem to help the story at all. Too, I would much rather we get the sort of payoff. Well, Zack himself getting the payoff of realizing like why he's still alive, and what is this? Why doesn't he have an internal clock and all that stuff? Getting the payoff, like you said, in a climactic way that then leads to him kind of going to the live stream, so then he's set up for Advent Children, or realizing that he's already in the same place as Aerith is, and that's just where they are till the end of Advent Children. I think would be really effective. And then Zack realizing, what happened to him, I think could be really cool. But I would prefer it's just the original story, adapted really fancily, like it has been in Rebirth. Yeah.
So, but my issue with that is one of the things that I think the Re-Trilogy has done really well is fixed a lot of the compilation's mistakes. And the compilation's biggest mistake still remains Zack. I'm sorry, it just does. His character is just an unlikable himbo narc.
Oh, you just mean him in general. So you're saying it's already doing better, which I agree.
Yeah.
In Rebirth, right?
Yeah. But like the most characterization we've ever got from Zack is like the little weird smirk he gets, like sad, broken smirk when Marlene tells him that Aerith likes Cloud.
Yeah, that was wild, right?
That was the most complex I have ever seen that character act. And then it kind of improves from there. Like when he sees Cloud in the white space, he's like, "You've been busy," and there's something kind of it's funny, and I understand why people didn't like the pacing of him being there.
Well, you took my girl. Yeah, you've been busy. That was funny.
But also it was like, you know what? Like that's the charm of a himbo, right?
Yes.
Is that when they're broken, we're really getting to see what kind of character, when you really get to test what kind of character Zack is.
We had this conversation before Rebirth. It's like, man, I want to see Zack like really put what happens when he realizes he wasn't a hero. Because he's always talking about being a hopes and dreams, or when he realizes the harsh reality of like what a hero actually means is not some glorified awesome thing where you're like kicking butt. It's just like helping your disabled friend Cloud who can't stand up and standing up to an army and dying. Like that's what it means to be a hero. And I love what they did. Like you said, those tough moments where, you know, he keeps getting thrown out of the world. He keeps getting like ignored, and Biggs just dies in front of him. It's like another army of soldiers shooting me, man. It's like, I cannot win. And I love that, you know, he is actually brought down a lot. Like you can tell he's actually pretty bummed about it all. He's not just like super happy all the time like Zack, but he
continues to make a choice. He continues to choose. And that's like, so we're watching him grow up too. And I don't like the idea of him. I think there's something that weakens it about the idea of him growing up in the afterlife. And that's, no matter how you slice it, even though it's an afterlife that looks identical functionally to life, that's, you can't really get around the fact that the live stream has that connotation in some way, shape, or form. And
totally.
So that's why there's part of me that really hopes that one of the payoffs of this blank check of no promises is that Zack survives and we see him, you know, change into something else. We see him grow up into something. And I also think that they developed his kit so much. I know you haven't done Bonds of Friendship or any of the post game stuff yet.
Super bosses,
the super bosses stuff. But you end up playing as Zack a lot, unless you use a cheat guide. Well, you have to, because Bonds of Friendship is the hardest super boss, because you spend the whole time trying to keep his ass alive. Ironically,
of course.
And so you know, there's
awesome.
There is this hope that like, oh, maybe we'll get more of his kit and stuff like that. He ended up being fun to play at the very end. And so I do kind of want to see them, you know, try and redeem the character. And there's no way that you slice it for me personally that doesn't feel like cheap if they've just like, I don't know, added a afterlife character development arc loophole in somehow. You know, and there's I understand, well, the alternative is that he's now part of the world. I find that preferable to the afterlife character development arc loophole. I find that less. I find that more artistically genuine.
I think we could get sort of well, not both. What do I mean to say? I think we could get it so that, like you said, he does come back near the end, but then he still dies after that. So that could be the case. So then the only reason I'm saying that is I would like to see it connect to Advent Children, just so this all makes sense, like as a thing you can watch and enjoy. A lot of people are saying it shouldn't connect to Advent Children at all, and it should just like be its own thing, which is definitely intriguing. I mean, Advent Children, while very nostalgic to us in its own way, like could certainly I'm totally fine. There's like an even better story that takes its place, but it would also be kind of like disconnected as the compilation and questionable in its own right, especially when they're starting to build that imagery so strongly of Cloud and Aerith, like same Advent Children shot, white background. Okay. But yeah, I guess my point too, Baby Seal, is that like this is what I mean when I say people are missing the forest for the trees. Is like when people say like, where is all the new stuff? Like I'm just looking for the answers. I'm just looking for the stuff, and it's like there's some really good scenes of Zack in Rebirth, like you just said. There's this great dialogue and kind of like character growth for him, and stuff with Elmira. There's a great scene with Elmira and Zack, and kind of like, yeah, I didn't like this guy because he's this, what's his word? Kind of like haughty guy who got my daughter into trouble because he's always have monsters attacking him. But like, oh, he actually helped out a lot and like is taking care of her when she's sick, when she needs him. Okay, he's a good guy. You know what I mean? And like those scenes are meaningful to me. And I feel like most people who are OG fans are just like hungry, need to know what's going on. Like, don't even care at all about them. They're just like, yeah, what's the answers? Because I need to know like how this is like a meta story about OG. And it's like, yeah, man, you're missing the forest for the trees. There's some great kind of content in there. And while it's, I'm not going to make a list of like 50 new thematic elements that have been woven into it. I think it's just beautiful scenes, character growth, moments, which to me are the most important in a story. That's why I always say like my favorite scenes are chapter 9, Tifa and Cloud, are this and that. Like that's what makes a story, man.
I mostly agree. I think that there was a pacing issue with it, which is that
just how soon you got the first Zack scene.
You get Zack right in the beginning. It's so cool. Like that first scene,
that was awesome.
I was like,
that was my
whoa, this is fucked up. I love it.
I love that song too. Another Buster Sword. Ooh.
Oh, dude, I love that. I loved all of that. And I also am in this weird position of being like, it was one of the most genuinely surprising things for me as somebody that like, so I went to a preview event where they said this is the first 4 hours of the game. And then
that wasn't there, right?
And it wasn't there. And so I was like, I was dreading starting it up. And then I saw that. I'm like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
And I was like, this is amazing. And then you wait 8 chapters until you see another scene. And they are 8 long chapters because you're learning the world intel mechanics. So that part goes slower. It actually gets tighter as you get further, even when it opens up again, like the and you get more side quests in chapter 12 and the big JRPG dump at the end of all character action in JRPG games. It still feels a little bit more tighter paced because you know what you're doing, right? So the first like 8 chapters are you learning everything there is to know about how world intel works, how all of the stuff is. You have the mandatory Queen's Blood chapter. All that stuff is great, but your mind at that point was like, where's Zack? I want to see. You could have just added 1 or 2 more Zack scenes in there. And I do think that there probably was an intention to have a little bit more Zack than we ended up seeing.
Oh yeah, they probably wrote the Zack outline separately.
Yeah.
And said this is the Zack scenes that happen, and then just like didn't have enough to place them sooner. Like, there's only 6 scenes. Where do we put these? It doesn't
That's
really matter
exactly what happened. You can look at the 2 outlines in the intel section of the game and see how that lines up, and you're like, exactly. Oh, they wrote this and then couldn't do that,
Yeah. So I mean, a lot of stuff like that is just logistical and also budget. They might have been like, I want another Zack scene. It's like, well, get us another $1 million.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. Like, you know what I mean? So a lot of it is just in a game that's already like 150 hours, including all the side quests, maybe even more, including super bosses. Like, whew.
I mean,
we're asking for a lot.
Yeah. Blind, it was a 300-hour platinum. I think that you can definitely do it quicker.
Wild, man.
But Blind,
I saw my friend BGG do it like, I think like 180 platinum, which seems lightning fast, but still incredibly long. I
think that's very doable if you 1, use guides, and 2, don't have a pre-release version of the game where the mini games are broken.
That's a good point.
So that's fair. Okay. Considering how elevated Chadley's position has become in both games and his status as an original concept, do you see a satisfying way for him to have a meaningful impact on the game's conclusion?
Oh yeah, dude. Chadley's got to have. I think it'd be cool to see Chadley have like a tragic end.
Yeah. He's
and
going
it'd be cool
full
to see.
VV.
Well, yeah, I would love to see it. So Hojo, he thinks he's broken free of Hojo, but Hojo is a real smart guy. Not a nice guy, but a really smart guy. And I think it'd be really cool to see him be like, oh yeah, I was just using Chadley to like gather data on you guys, obviously. Like
Yeah.
you see him all the time. He follows you around. Anyways, yeah, Chadley, your use is concluded, and just like kills him. And as he's like breaking apart into like digitized nothingness, he's just like, Cloud, it was nice knowing you. And then you're like, shit, I was so mean to this kid, and now I'm sad. Similar to Roche, where a lot of people are like, oh, Roche is pretty over the top, and then it's like, oh no, I don't want to finish him off. This fight is really sad. So I think that could be a really good way to do it, and then that would play into the ending. Maybe Chadley could be like a tool that Hojo uses near the end with the sister Ray as he's up there trying to help his son Sephiroth, and help him out and send him some energy, which I think is going to be one of the most wild scenes, and have a big Vincent moment there too as well. But yeah, I think Chadley's got to go. And he could also survive and have a nice I'm a real boy Pinocchio story. So.
Yeah, there's some Pinocchio stuff going on, and maybe Cloud's infinite potential allows him to materialize as a real person, alongside Claudia and Aerith, and all the other homies that died. Just Cloud just dreams him into existence. I'm joking. I think he's gonna have a sad existence. I think he's gonna. Yeah. It's gonna be like some S&D shit where like Hojo's gonna try and create the same shit that he did with Dirge of Cerberus, because I think Dirge of Cerberus lore is getting wrapped up into this.
Yeah,
and
totally. I want Deep Ground coming outside and Vincent killing him. I think that'd be sick.
And I think Hojo's gonna do some shit, and I think that Chadley's gonna be like, Cloud, you've given me such a meaningful life. I really appreciate you.
Yeah.
And then he time bombs whatever bullshit digital nonsense.
Yeah.
Hojo.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, he VVs him. Yeah.
Maybe Hojo uses Chadley's kind of like system to rebuild, whatever, some Dirge of Cerberus type stuff. And then Chadley's like, oh, I'm gonna shut this down, Cloud. Like, thanks, dude. It's like, yeah, but you'll never see me again either. Like, I'm going away too. Yeah. That'd be really sad.
Yeah.
That'd be really
I'm not in the live stream. That's why you never see me in the interlude world at all.
Yeah, he's Chadley. He's not alive.
Yeah, he's not there. Yeah.
That'd be really sad, man.
Yeah, would be. I'm
all for it.
I am too.
Aaliyah, so Aaliyah mentioned something really cool just because I saw it was from our talk. She said, did you notice that she thought it was really cool that they had Tifa have a relationship with the weapons in Rebirth, because in the original, a weapon actually saves her when she's in the gas chamber, blows a hole in it and she escapes. It's like, that's kind of a cool setup for that.
So
in a weird way,
that's a big question I have, and I know it's not necessarily a question that got asked, but somebody asked how the weapons will work. What will the fights be like?
Gargantuan. That's the answer.
For me, I really see our impetus to fight them in OG was that they were going to kill millions of people. They were going to come into Midgar, kill people. We had to fight them, and so now they're just in the way. And now that the weapons are sympathetic, it's even more fucked up. The whole thing's going to feel way gnarlier. Like
I said, are humans wrong? Should the weapons destroy it?
And
this is the whole point, by the way, of the story. There's another kind of theme there wrapped into the environmentalism, where Cloud says please listen to us, planet. Please listen to our feelings and who we are and our identity. Please save us. And this is what the live stream does. Aerith, coaxes it to listen, I guess. But it kind of plays into that. It's the live stream thinks that humans are bad. It's sending the weapons to kill them all. You see what I mean? So the planet does change its mind about humans at the end of the story, which I think is really significant. Yeah. So I hope we kind of see that played into, and you could use the weapons and Tifa as an example of that, and also have, like I said, this is the advantage of Rebirth Trilogy now, to have that conversation as the weapons are destroying Midgar, are about to. It's Barrett says man, maybe we were wrong all along. Maybe humans, maybe we should go away, and it's this cool moment. So the question
was more about the mechanics of the game, and I will admit that is the weapon fights are the biggest technological hurdle from a game design standpoint for part 3, because the combat system does not really allow for really large enemies that aren't in this bizarre curated platform sort of scenario, the way that like Bizarro Sephiroth is,
Right.
or the big Genova fights, where it's like they're at the end of this wall and you're on a floating platform fighting them.
Yeah, and you're still in like the general normal space of a battle and Rebirth where you can flee.
And even when you're climbing on Bizarro Sephiroth's nutsack for a while, those are nowhere near the size of the weapons. And
they're
so
huge, dude.
The weapons are gnarly. And so how do you make that work? And some people have looked at, say, like the icon fights in Final Fantasy 16 as a thing. For me, that doesn't work either, because those are staged, curated fights.
Yeah, they're in a special zone, and it doesn't work.
Yeah, and I really think that the only way that the weapons are going to feel satisfying is if they're just roaming out in the big world map, and so
they got to do it at least once.
Yeah.
They'll definitely have Diamond Weapon coming out of the sea, and that might be like a controlled, thing, just like the original, but they got to have it either Emerald Weapon underwater or Ruby Weapon in the desert. You got to have one guy just walking around, or, you got to have Ultimate Weapon just randomly flying around. So when you're flying the airship,
the easiest one.
It's like, oh no.
But like Ultima's the easiest one, because you just have that fight at the top of the Highwind, or, at the
and
deck.
I think, listen, largely the fights themselves, not how they wander around the world, are going to be cinematic. Let's just accept that. I think if they're smart, they implement airship combat mechanics with all the mini games. I think that's absolutely not out of the question. A lot of people might think it's too advanced. I mean, there's like 50 mini games in Rebirth at least. I think airship combat that starts the first time you get the Highwind. Shinra Gelnicas are coming after you, or Relnicas are coming after you, blasting stuff. You're flying around as Sid, evading and shooting back. I think they'll do that, and then have like sections of the weapon fights where you're flying around them, like launching missiles at them, and then it'll be like, Cloud, now's your chance, go, go, go. He jumps off and like lands on a weapon's like arm or something, and then you have a little platform fight like Bizarro Sephiroth, which then goes into another phase where the airship drops Tifa on the ground and she punches him in the foot or whatever. Do you see what I mean? I think they'll probably do it like that to make it feel like you're actually trying to punch Godzilla. So it's like this impossible task that takes like 1 million people to defeat it. Oh, it'd be so good, man. So that's how I would probably do it. But yeah, I agree. You got to see him wandering around at some point. It's just such a cool concept. And I think the world needs to be like, as it will, I'm sure, with airships, just completely open. You fly around, you can see anything. No zones are off limits. It'd be awesome.
I love that. I can't wait. Okay. There were a lot of questions that came. And so,
go for it. Give me.
Can't answer all of them. A lot of Drake and Kendrick Lamar questions. Good job, guys. Okay.
Yep.
Could Cloud die at the end?
I'm not seeing it personally. I don't see how it serves a story at all that's about self-discovery or accepting oneself.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so he accepted himself, then he died. It's like it doesn't stake anything.
Same answer. I'm not trying to dismiss that. I understand a lot of people want that. My good friend Turquoise Hammer, who normally has good taste, does really like that. Lost me on
that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Like
I don't see any reason for it. Yeah.
Yeah. I like bad stuff too. So let's see. You're gonna kill me for that. Let's see. Oh man, a lot of questions. All right. Oh, here's a good one.
Okay. So what do we got?
Okay. So, what do you think after? This is from Ribs, Miss Wine Rib. What do we think? The end of Rebirth, no promises to keep, is all about.
Well, I know what Nojima said. I watched a video of him saying it's about Aerith's love for her friends, and having to say goodbye to them, which is very sad. But singing about how much she appreciates them, and pretty much she's saying, you gave my meaning life before I had to accept my fate, and be the last ancient and not get to live a normal life. And that's why I think the story is so beautiful, because she has for the first time friends. She has for the first time, sort of hope to have a new life, which is both scary for her. The sky scares her, obviously, that whole metaphor, but also it's terrifying because she knows somewhere inside herself that her fate is going to have to be she has to die. She has a larger calling. If you want to go more vague with it, she knows something is going to happen to her. So I think it's really beautiful. And I think the moment that she writes the song, well, I guess the moment she sings it is the in my opinion, when her powers reawaken, her connection with the planet, because you see this green life stream come out of her, which is not like a VR thing. Then you see like Wedge and Biggs and Jesse waving to her, which is, they passed away. That's not VR Jesse in the dress. So it was a really beautiful moment for me. I was like, that's it. She's back. And then she starts to act a little bit differently. She goes to the Temple of Ancients, boom, can control the life stream again. So like, I think it's her, reflecting, thanking her friends for getting to live a life that has greatness. It's also like, for me, it represents Aerith like kind of reaching max. This is why Aerith is one of the coolest characters ever. Like, she's just so monumental and powerful, kind of like Yuna. Obviously the end is different, but for Yuna, it's like, I have to do this. Like, I'm an absolute badass. I've completely steeled myself to do this journey to help everybody else. And there's a lot of beauty in that. There's a lot of similarities between them. And also, this is why I think Aerith is so mature and so awesome. Like I said earlier, she realizes like she has to let her friends go. She has to let Cloud go, right? There was this beautiful fantasy. If you watch the Aerith date, it's one of the best written things in the game, I think. All the dates, but the Aerith date is great. Where she has this moment with Cloud where it's like, yeah, you always reminded me of him.
I'm going to tell the internet you said
that. I want Cloud. I want to love you, Cloud. Like, I want to love Cloud, not this, like, whatever you're trying to do. And I think she starts to realize what's going on with him after talking to Tifa, and knowing what happened at Nibelheim, and he's kind of thinks he's Zack and everything. It's like, she also starts to realize this is not very ethical. I know more, and I'm taking advantage of him in a weird way. Like, I know that I like him because he reminded me of Zack at first. Then I realized I want to know Cloud, but I can't because he's not there yet. He's not awakened yet. It's not, I don't know if it's ethical to kind of like let him love me.
Right.
Because he doesn't know all, like, I know more than it's something's wrong here. I'm taking advantage of him.
Yeah.
So she lets him go. In that scene, she says, you know what? I want to enjoy this fantasy of our love for one more moment, the dream, the date, and of course the gold saucer date, which is not necessarily, you might not see it, so they do it much more effectively in the church. They have their moment, and of course she says max maturity. Like, this is why Aerith is just a powerhouse of a character. Absolute legend. Says, like, thing is, Cloud, I like you, but there's liking and there's liking. Like, she's saying she doesn't love him. Right. She likes him and she wants to love him, but she didn't get to meet him. She thanks him in a very beautiful, loving way, and she says goodbye. Thank you for what you did. You let me love again one more time. You reminded me of Zack, and now I'm gonna go be an absolute badass and save the world. And it's just like such a beautiful scene.
And it shows it shows like her growth too, as in the way that she loves Cloud is much more healthy. Like, for instance, never once during any of the date scenes or in chapter 14 did she like deadpan look at the camera and say, build me a flower cart. Like, never once did that happen.
Yes.
That's growth as an independent, strong woman.
Toxic. Yeah. And she didn't say, I hate this one, build another one.
Yeah.
Very toxic.
Yeah.
No, it was really beautiful, man. And this is what I'm saying. All the characters are so much better. Like, look at the OG. You're not going to grasp that level of subtlety in her character in the OG. And like, now it's like, okay, this is what they're doing. They're obviously setting up future stuff with what's going to go on in the live stream. And then Zack and Aerith are going to see each other. Like, come on, what's happening. Obviously, they almost saw each other in Rebirth. He's walking in the church. Yeah. They're setting that up, and they're setting up, like, again, look at how sort of like lofty that makes Aerith to like do that and to realize her feelings for Cloud, what that means for Cloud. Is this, am I taking advantage of him? I don't know, but I want this fantasy for one more moment. And then, she'll get to see Zack in the very Advent Children way, I think. And then obviously Cloud and Tifa are going to have their moment in the live stream in the High Wind. And now it's not going to be like, wait, but is Aerith like waiting for, like, no, like, Aerith let Cloud go. She pushed him into the thing to save him, like, literally. metaphor for what's going to happen, and Sephiroth comes in and kills her, you know?
Yeah.
And I love that they gave her agency in that, and they gave her ownership of her fate, as opposed to just like she got, you know, surprised from behind, dead. And you see what I mean? This is why, to me, like the supplemental material, man, the scenes that to a lot of people mean absolutely nothing. They're just like, okay, what's the twist? What's the twist? What's the twist? That's what made the ending effective for me. That goodbye, that scene is more emotional than Aerith's death in the OG, the church scene.
I think there's several scenes in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth that are more emotional than maybe any scene except for the live stream scene in DOG. Yes.
Absolutely. And I'm saying this again with confidence because I just compared the two. I was playing them along each other for this very reason. And I'm like, it's so powerful. And she is so much more kind of appreciated by me as a character. Again, to kind of take that Yuna angle with a sharp twist, a very powerful twist. And to make her so much more mature instead of just like, yeah, whatever. And then she's dead. I think it's so good. And like I said, setting up future stuff. So it actually is kind of makes more sense with Cloud and Tifa. And makes more sense in the live stream under the high wind, and it's not just like, okay, where does everybody stand? To have her take that moment. So that, to me, that's what Promises to Keep means. It's her, you know, thanking everybody for giving her a life, man. Like she was locked in a freaking chamber her entire life, and then you saw what happened when she was a kid. She escapes in the most traumatic, disturbing way in the trial. You know, it's terrible. And like Aerith had a sad life, and that's why it was so sad. Man. We get to see the trial, and you're just like heartbroken. And then you realize, like, damn, this girl didn't even get to have a life. She doesn't get to live a normal life. She gets this little moment where she, like, takes it in one more time and thanks everybody and then goes to die. Like, it's Aerith is so strong. Like Aaliyah said, it's incredible. Incredible character. And I think they made her, like, 10 times better in Rebirth for that reason. So that's what Promises to Keep me.
I think it means a little bit more. I think it's also the...
Oh, you're talking about the quote at the end now. Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
absolutely.
That and also nothing shall forestall my return. I think it's the final act of Loveless, right? It's Aerith's fifth act of Loveless. So I think there is some meta implications. Also that we're talking about hopes and dreams, and promises are a form of hopes and dreams, and I am getting this sense that there's something very permanent about Aerith's death this time. I really feel like what we're setting up for it's the end of the spiral, you know, of the loop of Aerith's activity throughout time, and we're going to witness the end of her promises, of her hopes, of her dreams. And
how do they express that, do you think?
Well, I think that there's going to be something that represents not just her making a final sacrifice of her own soul, maybe even the memory of her, but I think there's going to be something that represents atonement for the Cetra.
Ooh, yeah.
And their crimes, and I think that the final note of the Trilogy will have something that involves allowing the Cetra to completely dissolve and no longer have any stewardship over the planet. It is completely in humanity's hands, and
which means they can't save humanity again either. That would be
means
really
they can't save humanity again. This is the last time, and I don't know if Zack's going to be included in that afterlife. I think Zack may persist.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
you said that earlier. That would be cool.
That's one possibility, but the no promises at Journey's End, and no promises kept at Journey's End, or no promises await at Journey's End.
Right. No promises await.
I mean, it's basically just saying the same thing. It's like,
play on words.
Nobody knows what's going to happen. Like you, OG fans, new players, nothing is off the table. That is the literal meaning of that. And but I think that how that relates to no promises to keep is that there is a freedom in being unbound from the live stream. There's a freedom in being something that isn't attached to anything, even the live stream. And that's something that's really, for lack of a better word, yoga karan. The idea that, true soul death is the only way to achieve like real immortality. And I know that's like a really bizarre concept, but and I don't have the time to get into it, but I think that there's something to that. But we're at 3 hours now and probably have time for maybe 2 more questions.
Love it.
So
yeah, great conversations, man. This is so much fun. Getting a lot of thoughts about part 3. Yeah. And like I said, I said in my video with Leah, I think the Nobuo song, this is my prediction for part 3, is it's probably going to play the night before they go to kill Sephiroth, where everybody goes to see their loved ones. Cloud and Tifa get together. Sid goes see Shara. Barrett goes see Marlene. Just absolutely heartbreaking. I think it's going to feel more like Suteki Dane from FF10 vocally, as opposed to like Eyes on Me, which is kind of like a little bit more of a ballad, as they say.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a little bit more tragic, a little bit more romantic, but also tragic. And I think just break our hearts in a great way.
Whose perspective do you think it'll be from? Because Hollow is from Cloud.
It's likely Tifa, but here's the thing: because Tifa like is the most important person in part 3. Let's be honest, right? She's gonna help Cloud be himself, and I think it's gonna be really powerful scene. And then after that, this is why Sephiroth tried to kill her in the live stream. He's like, now's my chance, But yeah, I think it could be from Tifa's perspective and be really effective. Also kind of mourning Aerith, talking about the loss of the journey. Also, I don't know what tomorrow holds type feeling. Same idea as the quote at the end. Like, we're going to die, most likely. We're going to fight like a god. And if we defeat him, we're going to get killed by meteor like 5 minutes later. Like, it's a hopeless thing. And it's the last night they have together. Feelings that they wanted to express their whole life. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, our lives are over. Feels too late. It's a very emotional moment. It's very Final Fantasy X in the same way. This is Yuna. The love scene in FF10 is very beautiful in its own right, but it's not just like a love scene. It's Yuna accepting she's gonna die. She's deciding to complete her pilgrimage and die, and considering I could live a normal life. That's just a fantasy. I'm not going to do that. It was nice to think about it for 5 minutes though with Tidus. And then they have this tragic scene, and it's beautiful, but you're like, but she's going to die. And that's what peppers it as so emotional. So I think that if they play that angle while we see like Barrett trying not to cry as he's talking to Marlene, trying not to say the world's going to end in like a few days. I mean, that's going to be powerful stuff, man. Sid making up with Shara, apologizing, assuming we get Shara in the next game, which I think we will. The list goes on. Nanaki going home, like really, really good stuff, man. Really, really good stuff there. Otherwise, it's going to be a Lion King-esque Sephiroth song, and he's going to be up in Northern Crater singing "Be Prepared" with a bunch of cool stuff.
Bunch of just robed clones. Yeah,
exactly.
One thing. So, you have mentioned Genova cells and Zack, and they really got to clarify that the jury's actually still out on what's going on with Genova cells and degradation and Zack. Mm-hmm. We never get any indication that Zack degrades ever, and we know that his body rejects Sephiroth cells. Remember, like when Genesis tries to eat his hair and it poisons him because he needs the cells in Cloud's body instead. Yep. So I am hoping that they kind of I mean, the lore is messy, and that's what you're going to get when you have a bunch of different projects all done by different people.
That's the problem.
Japan, where lore mechanics are like very secondary to vibes, you know, like, and so I do think that they're trying to adjust to modern storytelling, but see.
Yeah, so I mean, by that same logic, they've already like kind of tidied up a lot of the compilation that could just kind of be like washed over and altered slightly to make more sense, or they'll explain it. Yeah, or he's already dead. Like I said, and the other worlds aren't really affected by degradation.
Okay, let's see. If we want to ask maybe 2 more questions, I think chat eliminated all the questions by existing. The scroll decimated most of the questions.
Oh, yeah. If you guys got any really good ones, drop them.
Yeah, really good ones only. Do you have any questions for me, Phil?
Oh man, I love hearing your thoughts on part 3. I think so. Part of why I enjoyed my post game experience over the past few days has been I did not immediately rush to read everybody else's theories. I took a long time. I talked to Leah a lot, to be fair, but it took a long time to myself to just like really consider how I felt about the game, what it meant to me. I eventually watched you and Max Dude and your great conversation with the boys. That was awesome. But yeah, I haven't. I really allowed myself to take the time, even in my post game thing. I was like, I don't want to hear your theories yet. I'm going to tell you mine, and I really took time to listen to everybody's thought, to listen to my thoughts, get them out rather before I like even let my chat give me their theories, and that was like one of the best experiences. So right now I'm just loving hearing your perspective, knowing that you pretty much had the same experience as me because you were completely alone.
I had no choice.
Choice. So it's really cool to talk to you. Also, I've loved our conversations in the past, and you've always kind of really got my mind working in a different way. So I love that me and you have like kind of different views of sort of the details of it, but I feel very similar
Vibes
feelings of where we wanted
similar.
to,
and we also liked a
vibes.
lot of the same stuff. What do we think the rainbow effect is? That's a good question from Useless Hoarding.
So the rainbow effect appears to happen every time like a significant choice is made, or someone kind of like resists. When Cloud decides that he's gonna block Sephiroth, it goes right as he swings his sword. Rainbow appears, and then every time Cloud is like seeing Aerith alive, there's a rainbow glow, and when the party's there with her, it's not. So it's got to be again, from my simplified point of view, most simple answer is it's what's allowing him to see Advent Children Aerith. But for this game, it's a little bit more complicated. Like there's the different dream worlds, one of which is perhaps Cloud's dream right now. If the other one is Aerith's dream, as she called it, could just be her. You know, she lies quite a lot in that scene. It could just be her saying that to comfort Cloud, and I mean like nice lies, like comforting lies, not Sephiroth's gonna kill us in a few seconds. She's not gonna say that. So yeah, I think it's that sort of thing. Every time someone resists what's going to happen, I would like to think that when Cloud gets stabbed by Sephiroth and then throws the sword and throws him to the live stream, that also happened. Like that's a pretty significant change, but probably not at that point in the timeline.
Well, you're not gonna like this. So I made a spreadsheet because I was trying to figure out what the fuck was going on, and prior to the patch, I counted 273 rainbows. Post-patch, there's rainbows everywhere. All the limit breaks have rainbows. Everything has rainbows. Rainbows are everywhere. But I do think they seem to be they're most prevalent when the white live stream is involved, and the white live stream isn't a real that's not a real thing, by the way. So live stream black and white is an Advent Children like book, and so I'm using the term white live stream to sort of describe the white light effect that seems to happen around the White Whispers and anything Aerith is involved with in a very prevalent over the top sort of way, like very, 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 very over the top. But it's also just like anytime live stream is around enough, like when like rainbows shoot out of Genova when you break open Genova, right? Rainbows are in the the portals when Sephiroth is explaining the nature of shit to you. When totally. He consumes one of the worlds outside the Forgotten Capital, you see bits of rainbow. And I think it's just representative of the fact that the live stream, when looked at closely, is more like light through a prism. And you're looking at the spectrum of things. And so the white live stream is the stuff that I associate with, purity, hopes, dreams. And it seems to be an effect you can see more clearly associated with those concepts. And in hopes and dreams are choices, so I think it all kind of works. But again, this is one of those things about the live stream being like light. What is light? And how do you see light? Does darkness have any properties? And the answer in the real world is that no, it doesn't. Like there is no such thing as darkness other than a way to describe a lack of light. In Final Fantasy, that's not so. Like everything has shape, and that's very Yoga-Kara, and that's very Final Fantasy. And so I really don't think we can make mechanical predictions. My answer to useless hoarding is the rainbow effect is not something that we can reliably make mechanical predictions with, but it is something that can help us vibe check a scene.
I agree. Yeah, like I said, they're setting up a visual language. Yeah, it's what I was talking about at the ending. Like, I don't think I've ever seen an ending to a game or even a game scene that is so like full of information in every single shot and is rewarding for looking at every single shot and like paying attention to what's happening. And like I said, they've established several different visual languages. This golden light, this rainbow, the black whispers, the white whispers, etc., and then the stamps in different dream worlds. Like they've established all this, and then they're giving us information with the language they've established at the end. And that's why I thought it was so cool, because you're able to glean so much from every single shot and every single scene. And they've made this unique language to this game. It's super clever. And so I don't know. Hey, Sleep Easy, what's up?
It is. And I do think that like I'm not dismissing that rainbows mean something. I'm just saying that it's really,
there's a lot of them, you're saying.
It's really more about like the way that a feeling impacts you. And so visual language is a good way of describing a vibe check, too. And I think we're in agreement. And I know that's not for everybody. But it certainly is for me. I love it,
You're pretty much saying what I said earlier. It's like, don't overcomplicate things. Like, people are still it seems that the people are still trying to figure out what's going on with the whispers in game one, or the world in game one. It's like Sephiroth told you all you need to know at the end of Rebirth, man. He gave you a full breakdown of the nature of reality. Listen to what the game's telling you. Don't try to create new questions upon the questions. Like, it's all there that needs to be there right now. If you knew all the mechanics, you just know how it's going to end in part 3, which is not, in my opinion, enjoyable. Though
not enjoyable at all.
With me.
Not enjoyable at all.
People just want the answer. Like I said, the OG kind of purist people just want the answer, because it's a game that people are very known for. You have to do the research. You have to read the Ultimanias. You have to understand the lore. So for the first time, these people are in the dark. They hate it.
Well,
they need to know what's happening. And it's driving them insane. It's
not just OG purists. I think there is this, to sort of defend the position, like psychologically, it's in the information age where we are inundated with so much information that now it's upon us to like sift through it to find the accurate answers to things. Uncertainty is it's much scarier. And so you have seen a lot of pushback to anything that employs uncertainty, ambiguity, mystery box storytelling. People are drawn to the security of
security
of clean things. I personally feel like that limits art in a way that sort of lets the terrorists win, so to speak. I think that ambiguity can be an artful tool, and I do think that one of the things you said about the ending that I think is the best description of its quality is that it expects so much of the audience.
Yes. It asks a lot in a positive way.
And in a positive way. And I think the way that the ending does not treat us like idiots is beautiful. And it's and it would be idiotic. An idiotic response would be to say that, hey, we know what's going on. We were conveyed a ton of information, and we were conveyed something that's very clearly meant to be open to interpretation and to be a question meant to be answered later. And, there's also the issue that we have to wait three years for an answer. And, things are scary now. Things move fast. Do we make it 3 more years as a species? All that stuff does factor into why people reject that sort of stuff. But I think fear is the mind killer here, and I would ask that people, try and let go of some of that and just be open, because I think you open yourself up to more art. And I'm not asking you to lower your standards. That's not what this is. This isn't adjusting your expectations, to meet a subpar product. I'm kind of asking the opposite. I think raise your patience, raise your literacy, and I think at a higher level this delivers, not a lower one.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. Like, it is. I've rarely seen any shot selection that is so jam packed. Like, there's no shots that were throwaway shots. There's no shots that weren't conveying something. And it asks so much of you, and I think you would much rather it asks a lot of you than the opposite. It asks absolutely nothing, and it just gives you exactly whatever boring rehash of stuff that you've already seen.
This is not fucking boring. Yeah, and that's something I'll say. This is absolutely not boring. Like, we'll be talking about this until the minute that we get an answer.
The minute. And like I said, this is, it's like I said with the OG. The OG is vague in a very different way, and not good in a lot of ways. The OG is too vague without that sort of asking a lot of you in some respects, or asking the wrong stuff of you, I think, in some respects, to assume too much or know too much in between the lines of lore. It's just really, really, really complicated. I would say more complicated than any Kingdom Hearts lore that exists at that point. And I think, in this, if we talk about it with a sort of like art world conversation, like, this is the stuff that artists like to talk about and like to analyze and like to kind of break down, because there is something to break down. If it was the opposite, it's just like, that's that. They told us exactly how everything's going to be, how everyone feels, how we should feel as an audience. And that's it. I guess I feel that way now. There's not a lot to talk about. So I think this is a very sophisticated way of storytelling, and much higher so than the OG, which, again, I just played again. And it's pretty, you set aside your nostalgia and replay the original, especially in the kind of a speed run setting when you're really blasting through it. You will see just how simple a lot of it is. It is not on this level, guys. It just isn't.
I agree, and I think there will be some things that are surprisingly nuanced and complex, but I think there are things that are probably we've overthought considerably. Joshy Poo says, "I'm happy to wait for answers. I just don't think they've given them to us yet. What the Harbinger is conflicts with a lot of info in Rebirth without massive assumptions, in my opinion. I would actually argue it only conflicts if you make assumptions. But I agree with the first portion, which is we don't actually fully know what the whispers are yet. We are making assumptions about what they are. And
yes, we're learning more.
The assumptions that some of us are making are conflicting with what other assumptions other people are making, and so it gets rough. But in the Ultimania, it does say we will get answers to what's happening in the interlude in Zach's world, which really does seem to be core to the whisper mechanic in part 3. So I don't think this is something that we're supposed to have settled.
No, not at all. Yeah. Also, it's a trilogy now.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that's so important about Rebirth ending. You have to understand it's a trilogy. It's not okay. Anyways, I'll play through the end of the game right after this. Like, they have to set up a sort of ending for the second game, and not just have it like, okay, we'll get the payoff in the next scene. No, it's the whole other game that's going to come a long time from now. So they really want to say something now with that section of the game, more than just like, oh, this is a sad scene. Yeah, we want to ask more of the audience. We want to give the audience something to go back and enjoy. And I'm telling you, when part 3 is done, you'll be able to go back and enjoy this this very rich and dense ending of part 2 a lot more once you have all the answers, because now all that visual language, that's what I'm saying, is it's very sophisticated visual language that they're setting up for us. It has meaning. We don't know every single part of that meaning, as we just discussed the rainbows yet, but we're gonna know it at the end, and you'll be able to go back and be like, that's what it meant when Cloud raised his sword to defend Aerith. Oh, that's what it meant when Aerith pushed Cloud in the hole in the ground and let him go. And it's like, that's what's cool about all this, guys. It is going to make sense, and don't stress about what the Whisper Harbinger means at the end of Remake, because there's no point. We don't know right now. I have a pretty good idea, and I think Baby Seal does too, but we still don't know. Right?
Yeah.
So we will know one day, and we'll be able to go back and check it out. You know?
Yeah. And I would gladly be wrong, by the way. Like, and that's another thing I want everybody to know. I will occasionally clickbait things like I was right or called it, just to upset people enough to look at my video, because this is a hard game to play, the content
Very
creation
hard.
game. But I don't do it that often, and usually I try and make it really obvious that I'm being sarcastic. But the internet is often incapable of detecting that. But, so let me say it now. I would love to be wrong about a ton of stuff. I would love to be genuinely surprised with these predictions. But I also enjoy making predictions. I also enjoy dissecting the lore and doing that. And I think a lot of us do. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. And if you don't like it, do other things.
Get out.
Do other things. There are plenty of other things to do. You are free to do it. Grand Styles had a good question, and it's about, and this will be kind of the last one, and it is about compilation stuff. And I may have scrolled past it, but he wanted to know if we think, I'll paraphrase the question, should the compilation inclusions be completely detached and sort of DLC or VR, the way that the VR Vice battle was, or the Nero being kind of underground and totally detached, or should they impact the story in a meaningful way?
I would like to see them impact the story, but I want to be quite honest, there's so much to do, man. I just played the OG and I was like, oh my god, there's so much to cover in Game 3. They covered
surprisingly
staggering.
little. I know.
I literally said to Leah, I'm like, I don't know how part 3 cannot just be like non-stop climactic plot points the entire game. Like, I don't even know when they're gonna have time for exploration. And obviously Under the Sea, Rocket Town, Wutai, Northern Crater, but like, it is gonna be just, there's so much. Every single scene is like this huge set piece, crazy thing that could take like 5 hours to tell each part of it. And I'm like, whoa. So,
and they're supposed to have this done in 3 years. And not only that, they did this thing in Rebirth where they added a bunch of new characters, and every single new character in Remake is in Rebirth again.
Yep, and is expanded upon.
There's more Madam M and Jules, and Jules has a different gym. So nice. Yeah, man. The Wutai Jules gym where you do planking for 5 hours. This is gonna be crazy. You know?
Man, it's
Shinra Middle Manager has to come back, and
he'll be back.
And then we also have new characters, and we also have Vice, and we also have Genesis. It's hard. Yeah.
So I was gonna say, like, you can. I think if they're clever, they include it in ways, and it depends on. Listen, I could be wrong. Maybe at the end, it's literally a cut off. No more Advent Children, guys. Didn't happen. No more to Cerberus. Sorry, go play your little game, but it ain't canon anymore. You know, it's a separate canon now. But I would like to think they could work in, for example, Nero and Vice, and even what's her name,
Rosso?
Red.
Rosso the Crimson.
Red the Red and Blue the Blue. Yeah. When they come out, they could come out in the battle with Wutai, which obviously Scarlet would use Deep Ground. Why wouldn't she? They're not sealed by Meteor yet under Midgar, right? They could come out and fight in this like massive land war with Wutai as Diamond Weapon is fighting. And then maybe they decide they're going to go regroup underground and then Meteor falls. I don't know. They could still get sealed under there. So there's still ways they can like bring them out and then still have Dirge of Cerberus be canon. There's still ways they can even give us crazy new stuff at the end with Zack and Aerith and everybody and still have Advent Children be canon. And it all makes sense. So I think, an end to Sephiroth forever. And then still have it so, Sephiroth is just like a little remnant in Advent Children, and then that's it. Who knows? We will, it is certainly possible. And I think they can include Genesis. Hey, I gave you my Genesis idea, man. I need to say no more on that.
I just really, I need them to have Rosso the Crimson and to have her have a Russian accent again. And then have no other character in the entire world have that accent. I need that because, that's that kind of mystery that keeps on giving. For sure.
And we need Bugenhagen to say, it's all Greek to me. And then we're like, wait, where's Greece?
Wait, yeah. What's Texas? Why are we playing Texas Hold'em?
Yep. Crazy stuff.
Well, this was really fun, and
very fun.
And I really appreciate. Do you have any closing thoughts for YouTube?
Absolutely, yeah. I'll say, thanks for having me on, Baby Seal. Love talking to you. Thank you, my friend. Also, thanks everybody for watching. I hope you had some food for thought with what I had to say. Most importantly, my message is always to try and make people appreciate the art more. So, go back to those scenes, try and really sink your teeth into all the visual information that's there because it's immense. It is not just random stuff being put on the screen. You can tell Hamaguchi, Nomura, and everybody really took the time to tell us an amazing story. And in my opinion, they haven't dropped the ball at all. And part 3 is going to be just monumental in every single way. So the best is yet to come. I do think it will be bigger and better, by the way, than Rebirth, which I saw. I think it was it in your Max Dude conversation? A lot of you guys were like, yeah, they can't top it. I think they'll top it, personally. I think it's going to be bigger, better, crazier. One connected world. You fly around on an airship, weapons, rampaging across the world map. Beautiful stuff like that. And also, like I said, look for the simpler answer if you're finding pain with all the uncertainty of, like we said, if you're one of those people who's really upset about it. Look for the simple answers, man. Sephiroth told you what's going on with the dream worlds.
Or embrace uncertainty. Like, it's okay.
Have fun with it. Have fun with it. Like I said, the payoff is in those amazing new scenes with everybody. With developing Zack. Finally, we're getting development for Zack and all the new stuff. And embrace your dreams. Have fun.
I love it. And so with that, thank you guys very, very much. Appreciate it. And Phil, as always, you're always welcome here. This definitely won't be the last time we talk. We'll probably talk again soon, And
let's do it.
Like next trailer drop, or I don't know, next time, like when they confirm the Masamune thing and Ever Crisis, I'll get your ass on here again. So it's fine.
And guys, remember my Sephiroth theory, my new one with Genesis and stuff.
I love it. I love that new theory. I love the new motivation for Sephiroth wanting to not let anybody die because he's a sad little child. So with that, goodbye, YouTube.